if you're awake at this time because you're outside the country, wherever you are, happy Labor Day. Good morning, good afternoon. How you doing, Nduoko?
I am fine, Eric Latif. Good morning.
Good morning to you too.
How are things?
Things are good.
Good. I'm happy to see you.
Yeah. Happy to see you too. Happy to be seen.
Voila.
You look healthy.
I am healthy. Well, from my perspective, I am healthy.
Yeah.
I will
You
not
feel
give,
healthy.
I will not give anybody else opportunity to tell me
To
otherwise.
pull you down. Ain't nobody gonna pull you down.
There you
tear
go.
you down.
There you
Nobody.
go.
All right. Even City Muga is healthy.
Yes, absolutely.
City Muga,
Yes.
how you doing?
Fine.
You look happy and healthy.
Well, you know, when the Almighty bestows upon you free health benefits like being well,
Yeah.
you need to be happy because it's a health benefit.
And grateful.
Not something you worked for. You think you, but you didn't. He has bestowed it upon you. You wake up and you just have the normal aches and pains on your neck because you slept badly. But by and large, you have a lot to be thankful for. Yes. Now that is a premise for happiness.
Good.
Good morning, CT.
Good morning, Ndu.
Let's look at COVID-19 in numbers before we take a look at weather.
Let's do that.
What's happening in the world?
Okay. So, numbers have risen. 3,308,233 cases of COVID in the world. Now, another thing that we need to remember when we look at these numbers is that it's a conclusive number. It's the numbers of those who are currently case positive, including deaths, including recovered cases, including critical cases. All right. Deaths, 234,105. So just under 10% of the total number of cases have resulted in death. Recovered cases so far, 1,042,822. Okay. Now, if you want to look at COVID by country and see how this may have changed over the last 24 hours since we had an opportunity to look at it, the United States now nearing 1.1 million cases with now what they're calling worrying. It's only now that they're worrying, now that they've crossed that threshold of 50,000 deaths. And they're at 63,861 deaths. The U.S. Surgeon General yesterday said, where they thought that 3 weeks ago they would have reached a plateau, they're seeing more deaths than they thought would be the case now. And they're still on a spike. We don't see these numbers coming down. These are the words that he spoke yesterday. Governor Cuomo also said yesterday that they're still trying, that they're still testing rapidly. But the numbers of deaths in New York now 15,000 plus, and that's one state in the U.S.
Okay.
239,639 cases in Spain with 24,000 deaths. Italy at 205,000. The UK at 171,000. We're looking now at these two countries then coming easily to make almost a third of the cases in the world. Just these two countries. An entire third is taken up by the United States, and these two countries would easily make up the next third as we go along. Okay, China still at 82,874 cases, 12 new cases that they found yesterday. Brazil with 1,807 cases yesterday, and they're now closing in on 90,000 cases in Brazil with 6,000 deaths. And that's just something that stood out yesterday. Mexico, interestingly enough, also with 1,425 cases, with 1,859 deaths. Probably want to give some focus to the African continent now. Egypt, 5,537 cases. South Africa, 5,637 cases with 103 deaths. Now, we know that South Africa has upped their testing, so they're inching closer to 6,000 cases. Egypt also 392 deaths with 5,535 cases. Morocco with 4,423 cases and 170 deaths. coming down that ladder now. Nigeria almost at 2,000 cases now, with 1,932 deaths. We saw a significant spike in Nigeria over the last 3 days. We also know that testing has increased in the West African nation. However, it's likely that, yes, there are more who are positive for COVID-19, basically traversing the country. Still, numbers of deaths low, with 58 deaths so far. Tanzania. Let's take a look at Tanzania, yes, because we see increased numbers there still. Tanzania easily coming at still at 480 cases. It looks to us that they're not going to be giving us a daily number of cases. They're probably going to be submitting these numbers on a weekly basis like what we saw. Unfortunately, what that does is that by the time the 5 days are over, within which they used to test, you're going to see a larger number and think that, okay, things are going haywire. 16 deaths in Tanzania so far, with the numbers at 480.
Let me just add here, when we speak of these deaths, 16 deaths, are they specifying that these are COVID-related?
Yes, they are.
All the deaths that we talk about, when you have 2 million, it's 2 million cases of COVID-19. When you have whatever number of deaths is COVID-related, direct. So we're not talking about malaria or any other chikungunya or the flu even.
I'm going somewhere with this, okay? Those are the ones they've tested. Okay, I think my point is made. Carry on.
Those are the ones that presented with symptoms, were under treatment of some sort, and then they died.
Yeah.
Straight up.
396 cases in Kenya with 17 deaths. These are the numbers that were given yesterday. And still looking at ramping up efforts to increase the testing that's going on in the country. We'll see what that brings in the next few days. I know there were some issues and ifs, buts, and maybes around testing and the numbers and such. But we'll see. It's likely that over the next few days, yes, you will see an increased number, almost at 400 cases in the country. The Ministry of Health continues to say that, we're going to continue testing. We're hoping to increase our capacity. Unfortunately, increase the capacity. You have the capacity that is not being fully expended right now. So, fill that capacity first before you start talking about increasing it, is what might make some sense. Okay, Congo. And this is specifically Congo Brazzaville, 220 cases with 9 deaths. Rwanda have increased by 243 deaths. 243 cases with 0 deaths. And Uganda yesterday was at 81 cases, and today Uganda is at 83 cases. So 2 more cases in Uganda yesterday, but 0 deaths. So it seems like, again, we're looking at numbers around the world where certain measures have been put in place, and you can see the results of that. If that data is going to be used to come to that conclusion, this is what we see.
It'll be interesting to actually now start tracking also the number of tests conducted in these countries, especially in our neighboring countries. So we know that every time they're giving a briefing in the country, in Kenya, they say how many they've tested so far. I think we're still at 20-something thousand tests only.
Today in the Standard, we have indications of the number of people who have died from cholera-related illnesses. It's a good thing. Maybe we should also report, because you really want to segment this thing and make it clear. So you don't keep asking the same question. You say, those who died of cases that were not COVID-related were so many. Because you know what they died of. Those who died of COVID-related ailments were so many. So many who died of cholera, whatever it is. It makes life so much easier when you give it a perspective. Because if you don't, then it appears that everyone who dies just dies of COVID-related illnesses. This is not true. Before COVID, people die. And after COVID, there'll be deaths. So let's just be given a clearer picture of
daily deaths.
Daily deaths. This is what's happening. And even give us the areas where people are dying. So people understand that what you call the normal cycle of life has been continuing.
Nothing has changed.
No, COVID just interrupted this particular process. It came with its own issues.
Important to do that. City, as we go to take a look at weather, let's start off with today's proverb.
Yes, this one for this cold weather is most appropriate. One who willingly takes a bath with cold water doesn't feel the cold.
One who willingly takes a cold with bath water doesn't feel the cold.
No, if you willingly take a bath with cold water, the cold nature of the water doesn't actually bother you. You will not actually not feel it. This one is a saying that comes from a certain community called the FIBA. Now, most people will not even have heard of it.
Nope.
FIPA. FIPA in southwestern Tanzania,
What?
in the Rukwa region. Yes, I'm just explaining to you. Tanzania has more tribes than we actually do. There are many small ones. This particular group of people
So
are
they're
not
called the FIPA.
FIPA, FIPA, FIPA. It's not a mother tongue in influence where it was FIBA, and now you're calling it FIBA. No, it's not one of those. They're actually called FIPA, FIPA.
And it's not PIPA
Yes, it's not PIPA, okay? Yes.
or fever.
Yes.
FIPA.
FIPA. These individuals, this lovely group of people, around just 200,000. They're not more, okay? Southwestern region, a place called the Nkasi regions. Yes. Nkasi district. But they're Tanzanians.
Anyone who willingly baths with cold water does not feel the cold.
No, you don't.
A nice one.
Essentially, your body gets used to it.
You're already prepared.
Your body gets used to it. It's actually very normal.
That's what you were looking for anyway. So it's the water you wanted.
If you ask anyone who went to boarding school and when they went home for holidays, had a bath with warm water, they'll tell you that the water in school became colder when they went back.
Yeah.
Yes, it felt colder, more uncomfortable. Yet it didn't. It was the same cold water. It's just that you had accustomed your body to this warm, lovely water. And then you go back to school and you're met with this cold, lovely water.
At 6:30, this is a situation with Kenya's biggest conversation. Shortly, we'll be taking a look at the newspaper headlines. But first, we'll take a look at weather and traffic. Good morning.
Cloudy conditions in certain parts of the city this morning at 16 degrees. It'll carry on through the day because we'll see some thunderstorms in Nairobi later today. Highs of 23 and lows of 15. You'll be indoors, so it's all right. Nyeri at 16 degrees is cloudy. Highs of 23 and lows of 16. Nakuru at 15 degrees is cloudy all through today, opening up for thunderstorms in the afternoon with highs of 23 and lows of 14. It's a wet day around the country and Eldoret is falling in line at 14 degrees, cloudy conditions. Heaven's about to open in a very short while with highs of 21 and lows of 13. Kisumu has already started with rain showers this morning at 20 degrees, highs of 26 and lows of 19. Rain is likely to carry through into the weekend. In Malindi at 26 degrees, rain throughout, highs of 29 and lows of 26. In Mombasa, 26 degrees. It's very cloudy this morning. However, the rain will come in shortly. Highs of 28 and lows of 25. Kampala is cloudy this morning as well at 20 degrees. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 19. Mostly cloudy conditions in Dar es Salaam at 25. Showers going to make their debut today at highs of 29 and lows of 24. Taking a look into Joburg at 9 degrees. It's clear skies all through today. Sunny conditions in the afternoon with highs of 21 and lows of 7. In Lagos this morning, when the sun does come up, it'll be 26 degrees for most of the day. Partly cloudy conditions with a high of 33 and lows of 26. Light rain showers being experienced in the Big Apple this morning at 13 degrees. We'll see highs of 16 and lows of 12. The showers likely to open up into the weekend. In Paris at 11 degrees, it's mostly cloudy, rain showers. Again, thunderstorms warning at yellow. Highs of 17 and lows of 7. And finally, when Big Ben tolls in London at 8 degrees, it'll be partly cloudy throughout the day. Highs of 15 and lows of 7.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Yeah, right. So there's none this morning. Traffic not likely to make any kind of debut this morning. We hear, and maybe we can get reports about that, some crazy traffic on Gitanga Road this morning. We'll find out about that. And also on Gong Road this morning. It seems that people might be trying to leave the city, but we'll find out about that in a bit. Spice FM KE, if you happen to be out and you see something going a little bit crazy, do let us know. The highways are rather slippery because of the overnight rainfall in certain parts of the city. So if you do get out, we ask you to be extremely careful. We'll give you an update in a short while about what it looks like. Spice FM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter. Let's share that information just in case you run into a spot of trouble.
Now 25 to 7. Good morning and thank you very much for tuning in to Spice FM this morning. Joining us in the Situation Room. Happy Labor Day. Let's take a look at the newspaper headlines. Remember, you can download the Standard e-paper app from Google Play Store and Apple App Store. You can access this wherever you are around the world. Just one subscription fee and you're good to go. You have the Standard right at the palm of your hand. And what the Standard is leading with today is Sonko takes on Uhuru. Too little, too late. 2 months after signing away vast powers to the national government, the embattled Nairobi governor has moved to court to quash the transfer of key functions. This effectively takes the war to the president, who oversaw the agreement.
It takes the war to the president. You know, one of the things that we should be delighted about is when the practicalization of our legal statutes are actually brought to the public. It gives you a clear understanding of what the law says, gives you a clear understanding of what it doesn't say, gives you a clear understanding of what it is. This is one of those cases. We have an opportunity to take a ringside seat and observe how the law plays out. It's good.
So there's a case that's been taken to court by Okiya Omtata seeking a declaration that the transfer of the 4 key functions to the central government was illegal. And now Sonko is supporting that lawsuit.
He's enjoined himself.
He's a respondent, obviously. This case has been filed by Okiya Omtata. Who are the respondents? The national government, headed by, in this particular case, Eugene Omalwa, who signed, and Mike Mbuvi Sonko, who signed. And now he's saying, okay, I agree. Let's see how.
It's all good.
These are games, though. Whatever Sonko is doing.
That's what I'm saying. It's all good. You know, if
I don't even know.
Let me ask the question. If he takes this matter to court, are we suddenly going to find that the functions of the Nairobi County have been reduced, have been enhanced? What are we going to see?
You know, here's the thing. It's okay for Okiya Omtata. We also know that the Institute for Social Accountability had also...
They're throwing their heart into the ring as well.
Yes, and they're challenging this. And then now we see one of the people who the person who went and signed off the powers.
What he's essentially saying with all of this, without actually saying it, is that he was coerced into signing this agreement.
Remember sometimes back, in a previous time, many years ago, When we had a similar case, things were signed and somehow the devil came into the discussion.
The devil made me do it.
And somehow the
Basically
devil,
what we're looking at here.
the devil influenced the signing.
Yeah, it was not of my own volition.
Dark forces.
Yeah. If I think about it properly, I didn't actually have time to contemplate what the measure of me signing this particular functions over meant. And at that point, I wasn't really cognizant of it. Now that I have given it some thought, and now that I see the manner in which the game is happening between then the Metropolitan Service and that of my office as county governor, I don't like it very much. And I realize actually I was not aware of what I was really signing over. Some other force had everything to do with me appending my signature to this agreement. And now I'm coming back and telling you Kenyans that, you know what?
I'm reneging.
I'm going back on this because truly, when I look at it for all its integrity, it doesn't make much sense for me and I'm not able to go forward with it.
Well, it's a legal matter, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Right. Let us see how it plays out. But bottom line is, let us understand how it's going to impact on the lives of the citizenry of this county. Because whatever you want to call it, at the heart of this thing was the understanding that you wanted to ensure.
It's for better service delivery,
Yes,
right?
that's really the bottom line. Not the political ping pong. No. Mm-mm. So let's see how it plays out.
Funny games.
These are funny games. All right, on the same page of the Standard, Kibochi is Kenya's new top soldier. Change of command. General Robert Kibochi was yesterday named the Chief of the Defense Forces, succeeding General Samson Mwatete.
Yes.
Right?
That's how it's pronounced.
Okay, got it. Also promoted
Samson Mwatete wa Jefwa.
Oh, okay.
Yes, in full.
Also promoted in the changes announced by President Uhuru Kenyatta were Lieutenant General Levi Mugalu
Is Mugalu.
To deputize Kibochi and Major General Jimson Mutai to head the Kenya Navy. So some of these changes came yesterday, and it seems that, all right, with the change of guard, there's hope. And it was interesting because outgoing General Samson Mwatete was profusely thanked by President Uhuru Kenyatta for the service that he offered to the country in the time in which he did. He takes over from him, of course, who retires after more than 42 years in the military. Also promoted Navy Commander Major General Levi Mugalu, who was named the Chief of Defense Forces, to take over from General Kibochi. Major Samson Jimson Mutai was named the new Kenyan Navy Commander. President Kenyatta announced the appointments yesterday, saying the officers are expected to assume office under their new position on the 11th of May. Mwatete reportedly declined an offer of another extension of a year in office, saying it would send the wrong signal to rules in place that govern succession in the military.
Called the Tonje rules.
Voila. And he's sticking to the rules here.
No,
it would have been
he
easy.
had a one extension.
He's not sticking to the rules. He took an extension already.
If you stick to the rules, you don't take an
Yes.
extension. The reason why they're called Tonje rules, the rules were there. Tonje's term came to an end and he said, I am going home. I do not want an extension. The purpose of these rules is so that we abide by them.
Yep.
And he left.
And to ensure that there is, continuity. And also, you see, when a general exits, are you seeing the number of movements that
You
we're seeing?
open up a
on the
lot of
ranks?
space.
General Karangi got 2 extensions
Yep.
in the same position.
Meaning he couldn't go further.
Couldn't go further than that. All right. There's been silent lobbying among those hoping to take over
The
from
last
him.
3 generals have basically taken extension.
Yeah.
Kianga took an extension. Karangi took extensions. Mwatete
Mwatete
has
took
taken
one
an extension.
extension.
Do you-
Now let's just hope that
Do
Kibochi
you know what
does
it
not take an
means,
extension.
by the way? You know what it means? There are people who had to retire because of age is a factor here.
Yep.
And the rank.
Yep.
You know, ranks have a tenure. So it means people who could have gone one step further could not because these people stuck to their guns.
Yep.
You can't move if someone doesn't move from the top. And a direct movement from the top really opens up that
It
space.
opens up.
So it means if you do the maths, you have something like around 5 years when people could have moved around, shaped when it didn't happen.
Maybe what they ought to do, the National Defense Council, is sit back and review the Tonje rules because of the impact that it has on the promotions and looking at the age and the age of those below who ought to be getting promoted. Because I think it has a lot to play. This
does.
general stays in office a bit longer so that somebody somewhere goes on retirement, somebody somewhere goes on and allows a younger person to rise. so that this it allows us to have a younger person who's going to take over as general.
What you've actually brought into the discussion is the politics within that particular force. Because what you're saying is, you look at the picture and you look and you say, if this guy retires, it's clear we're in the military. So and so and so and so.
So
No,
go up.
we
so
don't like this.
Become brigadier, become major general, become lieutenant general, and then has to become general.
Because the moment they are sent upward,
Yep.
it means the tenure is also extended, because that rank comes with a certain age and tenure. It becomes a tool that is useful in manipulating who you want into leadership. And I don't see them giving that up soon.
They ought to review those tenure rules and just say, well, if a tenure of a general is this long, let's add it by another year.
Yeah, let's just add it by another year.
Yeah, so it's clear. We don't have to say, oh, you've taken an extension for a year and appear like we are flouting our own rules.
It's an automatic extension of a year, and after that you go home. It doesn't matter what you say, do. Yes.
Let's see what happens in this. Now, of course, we know it's also rotational. We've a Navy officer who's left the helm, and now this is an Army officer who's taking up. A Navy will become the deputy. The next we know is going to be an Air Force officer who takes over.
We hope, because the deputy right now is from the Navy.
Yeah, the deputy right now is from the Navy, but he also knows this is the highest I'm ever going to be. I mean, this is
it's been understood.
It's understood. I know I am Navy, but this I will not be.
The next person who's going to head this is going to be somebody from the Air Force.
Coming from the Air Force. Very clear, very good. I think one of the things that I like about the tenure rules is that I'm a person who likes order. Like I keep telling you about
order is good.
Fuel prices. I know from this point to this point, this is how things are. Don't wake up and blindside me.
Don't like?
You know something? It works wonders when you rotate this thing. There's no arm of the military that feels they've been left out, because they do feel left out.
Yep.
For the longest time, it was just the army who hogged
just the army.
They just hogged it. Yeah, they just hogged it. And they talked about numbers. But this one, if you're talking about something that was well thought out, well done,
This was it. I think Kibwana was the first Navy person to head the military.
Ever. Not at just first. Ever.
All right.
So other headlines.
Looking at numbers and order, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the anti-graft agency, has said it is monitoring how resources aimed at fighting the coronavirus disease are being spent. Speaking during the presentation of 1.2 million donation mobilized by the EACC staff for the Kenya COVID-19 Fund, Chief Executive Twalib Mbarak said the agency has stepped up surveillance in Nairobi, Mombasa and Kwale counties to ensure adherence to the cessation of movement order. He said the commission would go after those perpetuating graft under the guise of fighting the pandemic, including supplying substandard goods. This is a message to the governors and others involved that we are monitoring them. Big Brother is essentially watching. They should not take advantage of procurement under the guise of this emergency to enrich themselves as opposed to the intended beneficiaries, because we will get them easily.
Twalib Mbarak, our friend Major. Pole. By the time you catch up with these guys,
Sailed.
you
Ocean.
Monitor all you
Gone.
want. Okay, you're going to catch one or two. You're going to not be able to catch 45 others. It's okay.
It's not even catching one or two. What we are seeing is not something that is only peculiar to COVID. This is what has been happening all along. COVID is just one other entity that has brought in money that enables people to loot. It's not as though something new is happening. It isn't.
In fact, COVID makes it so much easier. Guys who are used to doing, tougher things now, COVID. This is an emergency. I mean, people need face masks, and you cannot count how many people you went and gave face masks.
You can claim to give everybody.
We procured 1 million face masks, and we give to the people in the county of Nairobi.
Yeah. How are you going to verify? No, seriously, how are you going to verify?
That you take a face mask and sign here and write your ID number and take a photo. Never.
It's like saying we provided sanitizers. And you want to monitor and say we provided. How on earth are you going to account for those sanitizers?
You cannot. You absolutely cannot.
Had this discussion taken place around the time when we had the our friends in the oil transporting business came into by telling us we are now manufacturing
the pipeline, Kenya pipeline.
If pipeline came in and EAC also came in, we'd say, okay, They've got this thing from the beginning. These guys have been distributed. Have been giving. Now you want to come in?
No.
So yes, we've produced the 1 million liters of hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
Account for those 1 million liters. How many have been given for free? How much of that 1 million has been sold?
Kenya
Has
Pipeline
ended up
can tell
being
you
sold?
what they produce and what they've given.
Yep.
They'll have a record. And thereafter,
Follow it up all the way.
Kenya Pipeline doesn't have a mechanism for ensuring that every drop of that sanitizer is actually used.
Yeah.
And it's not even their job.
Their job is just manufacture.
And then some other agency comes in and says, make sure this thing gets to where it's supposed to go.
Another short break at 12 minutes to 7 o'clock. Good morning. This is a Situation Room.
Spice FM, Malindi.
Ten minutes to 7. This is a Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation. We are reviewing the newspaper headlines. The other newspaper headline today is
This one, workplace will never be the same after pandemic. Well, this is rather obvious, but let's discuss it nonetheless.
how is it going to change?
It's going to change because, one, the dynamics of employment will change completely. The dynamics of how we structure. One thing that will go completely is permanent and pensionable. That thing is going to go.
Why would it?
Because you can't actually predict how long you're going to be in business and how long it's going to work. So you can't really engage someone on a permanent basis because you yourself don't even know if your business is going to be permanent. But there's a discussion that always takes place with reference to workers' union, about the pay. There's something that is misunderstood here. Giving you more money doesn't mean giving you more value. For the simple reason, if you have more money and the goods that your money can buy are not commensurate with the money, what you have is a situation where you simply spike the inflation. The fight should not be how much money you get. The fight should be how much your money can get you, meaning the cost of living has to go down. So even if we say we're instead of increasing your salary by another 5 shillings, say we're reducing it by 10 shillings, and that reduction enables me to buy twice what I was buying before, that is of more benefit than telling me I have more money, when what it's buying means less. Because you announce more money, landlords increase. In the previous, in a time gone by, you announce more money, fuel goes up. You announce more money, matatu goes up. So essentially, this increase doesn't help that worker.
You're talking about
single bit.
the announcement that happens on Labor Days of the minimum wage.
That not useful announcement that takes place.
Raising of the minimum wage by
Not useful.
that's the amount.
Not useful. Not useful because the worker doesn't get value. The worker suddenly is not able to buy more than they were buying before. The worker is no longer able to say that the way they are living has improved. It doesn't. In fact, it gets worse. It gets worse. With every labor day, there is a commensurate increase in the cost of all these things that the laborer usually needs to purchase. So how does it help them? It's not just cosmetic, my friend. It's a fabrication. There is no help. Let me repeat. No help. Zero. In fact, most likely is your life will be worse off than it was before the increment.
Debatable.
Tell me where it is that you've heard when you have an increase in minimum wage and someone's life has actually gotten better.
You see, there are two things that we need to, I think, distinguish here. There is the employer, your relationship with your employer, and what kind of input you give and how much you're paid. That's one. And then there's the other factors of living and the inflation and the economic macro and micro. Those are different things.
How different, Eric?
They're different because the employer is not responsible for the rest. When I'm negotiating with the employer for a pay rise, I'm not negotiating with the employer so they can reduce my cost of living or increase my cost of living. Those other factors are secondary. And there's somebody else who's in charge of that. CBK and the rest, and people at the National Treasury. Those ones are responsible for those other issues. Ensuring, for example, that conditions stay the same as much as possible to reduce inflation. Cost of living goes up because glut in production or shortage in production.
The point you're making is a valid one, but it would be more valid if we understood that even employers have a body that can engage the government. Right? For instance, if the government doesn't reduce the cost of production, if the oil price doesn't go down, production will be high.
Yes.
The cost of what you're buying will be high, and yet it doesn't have to be. If you look at most of the costs that we have in this country, they're directly related to tax. Directly. And in that respect, you are 100% right. So it is a continuum of not just a discussion, but getting the heads together to understand this FKE. You talk and see how best do we make the lives of our workers better.
Yep.
You see, if you look at some of the big ranches that people like talking about, one of the things that they do, they actually try to make the lives of their workers better. There are certain things they give the worker free. Give. Okay? If it's milk, during a certain period. If it's meat, a certain period. And then they have their own shops where you buy these things at a very discounted price.
Yep.
It makes the life of the worker easy. Now, you are sort of like placing the worker directly in the eye of the market forces. Where the minister buys goods is the same place that casual worker buys things. Same price. There's no special price for these people. Meaning, you are saying that we are equal. We are not. From the very beginning, we are not. In fact, the privileges go to people who already have.
Yeah.
Those who don't have are the ones who keep getting underprivileged. That's what I'm trying to say. So, these are things, indeed, as you put it, we must address and say, folks, how do we make the life of that citizen of ours who is not very empowered, how do we make it better? How do we make it better? How do we make it easier for the employer? How do we make it easier for the government? Because this issue of taxing, you make up in the tax if you have more people employed because you have a larger base of people to tax from. And you have a larger base of people you understand that, meaning everything. These I'm not discussing something that is new. I'm discussing something that has been done before. And people are doing it, and it works.
And this discussion actually keeps happening all the time. So you find sometimes the FKE is against an increase in the minimum wage because you're talking about the private sector having to cough up more. Their cost of production goes up because my running costs are higher. I have to cough out a lot more in paying salaries.
Yes.
So they keep arguing about the back and forth.
They do, and they keep saying the government wants more taxes, wants this. So it's like a never-ending cycle with no solution. And the truth of the matter is, as you correctly put it, Eric, the government has the last say on this matter. So when someone tells me that, I'm reading a quotation here, it is only through tolerant politics that workers can work peacefully. BBI with Uhuru succession are all a hint on good politics. What utter bunk.
Who are we quoting here?
I'm quoting Brother Francis Atwoli.
Brother, no less. All right.
Yeah, but that's what union leaders are referred to as.
Okay.
Yes.
Brother Atwoli.
Yes.
So he's mixing the issue of the welfare of workers with the politics of the day.
This is absolutely undiluted hogwash. What on earth is this? How does it help the life of the common worker whom he supposedly represents? How?
When there's a peaceful country, the peaceful coexistence, the BBI
We've
is looking
been
at
peaceful
improving
for the
the livelihoods
longest
of
time.
people.
There's peace.
So why did we have a handshake? It's because there's
So that
instability.
we can have more peace.
That's kind of instability. Mutahi Kagwe and his the fight that's been taken to his office. It's a huge one. I think we'll be talking about it in the next hour and trying to understand. When we talk about 1.3 billion shillings has been consumed, not spent,
Literally.
consumed in a month.
Yes.
What exactly is it that we're talking about? When you're saying that we're expecting even more money, 4.5 billion shillings is still yet to come from the World Bank, and more money coming in. How should you expect that this money is going to be budgeted? And those questions that we were asking yesterday. Why would you say 40,000 shillings earmarked for fueling a vehicle for a week? What's that? But like we said, it's possible that somebody sitting in their office actually did this, and with a clean genuineness of heart, this is how we do our budget. I think it's important for us to understand the budgeting process, especially in government.
We do. We actually do.
So we'll be talking about that in the next hour. CT, as we go into the top of the hour, 2 days probably.
Yes. One who bathes willingly with cold water doesn't feel the cold.
You know, now because you like using the word willy-nilly, every time you say willingly,
You hear
That's what
willy-nilly.
you hear.
just hearing willy-nilly. One who bathes willy-nilly with
Willingly.
cold, with cold water.
Doesn't feel the cold. It's actually true. Your body acclimatizes the cold and it becomes normal. It's like asking someone who walks
And it's what you wanted anyway. So, I mean, to you, the cold is not the issue.
No, the option even exists. But you see, the fuel is something you need for more important things.
You chose to.
It's not as though you're going to get cleaner if you bath in hot water. The same cleanliness you get from cold water. And with cold water, you are going to minimize the use of that water.
One who willingly takes hot porridge
Yes.
does not get burned.
No, you don't. Your system gets used to the hot and it's normal.
The system sees it coming.
It's 7 o'clock. This is a Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Happy Labor Day. Good morning.
All right. Are we looking at traffic? I guess we'll be looking at the roads. In this case, not much traffic at all, considering that it's a holiday. Nobody's off to work today. It is Labor Day, so I guess most of the work will be done at home today. The roads are a bit slippery for those who dare to brave it this morning because of the showers that we saw overnight. That is likely to be the situation for some time. The showers are likely to be there for most of parts of the morning. So really, there is no traffic. Not now. Not for a while. Spice of MKE in case you find something that we should know about. We'll spread the word.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu
2 minutes
Oko,
after 7.
Nigerian by
This is a Situation Room.
birth,
It's
Kenyan
also
by
Kenya's
choice.
biggest conversation. Now, let's take a continuation of what we were discussing yesterday in terms of figures that were presented by the Health Ministry to the National Assembly Committee on Health. And these figures were indicating how money that was donated by the World Bank, 1.3 billion shillings, was spent by the Ministry of Health in the fight against COVID-19. Various budget lines there. There was the hiring of 15 ambulances. Cost how much again? Some money. There was
12 million.
12 million shillings. There was quarantining of 30 healthcare workers. Some money. There was a printing of discharge forms and quarantine forms and arrival forms and I don't know what forms, some money. There was printing elsewhere. I don't know where that was. Maybe it's at the ministry headquarters. There was tea, coffee, and snacks. Well, there was no coffee, just tea and snacks.
There was no mention of
There was
coffee.
no mention of coffee or even water. Tea and snacks for various groups. Some money went. Then there was the capital expenditure, the buying of test kits, the buying of PPEs. There's, the buying of some lab equipment and more equipment. Some more money went. The question that Kenyans have asked is on these small things like tea, mandazi, why are we hiring ambulances? Why is it that we need to have two, budget items called printing?
And
One is
communication.
printing and the other one is stationery. Then there's communication. What is this communication? Media houses are
Then
saying,
there's
well, we've been running this
PPE.
thing. Then there's PPE 1 and there's PPE kit. What was it?
PPE, there's one brought in by UNICEF, then there was PPE brought by us with other things added.
Yep.
And remember what I asked was, these PPEs, we understand what they are. But are they the ones that are recyclable? Are they the ones that you decontaminate and continue using? Are they the type that you already have in the Center for Virology Research in Cambridge? Because they have them. Now, and if so, other institutions like the Nairobi University Medical School also have them. So these new ones that you have added to them, what are they? Just simple details.
Yep.
None of it is available. Just told cost. You're not even told what type they are and how best they can be used. More importantly, even where they have been distributed.
Now, we hear from the look, all of this yesterday just came out from what we saw, right? We hear from the Ministry of Health, specifically CAS Rashid Aman. Well, he wasn't going to talk about the allegations of misappropriation of expenditure and this, that, the other thing. He was not going to address that. But what he did say was that we currently have set up, guess what?
A task force.
To look into
The budget.
these budget allegations of misappropriation.
Another budget line. Task force, allowances, tea, and whatever.
Now,
Fuel costs.
And sitting allowance.
and as he spoke then, this was now yesterday, as he spoke, the team was currently sitting down and looking into these things line by line, and that they were doing this in conjunction with international partners. I'm assuming this international partner now were officials of the World Bank. All right. And after some time, a detailed report then would be presented to.
So the
Members of
internal
the
auditors were doing this. So the report was taken to Parliament before it had gone through this process.
Thank
basically.
you. That's what we
It
are
was prepared
saying.
by the accountants, and then the internal auditors had not.
How do you go and present an audited report? That's the question. Because then there's a furor and everybody goes crazy and starts asking questions. Then you say, actually, you know what? We were actually preparing a report. So all this noise that you're making is actually not necessary. We were in the process of preparing this audit to then present to you. We also heard from the CS yesterday that under his watch, not a shilling of this donated money would disappear. Well, poof, gone already. There's no explanation that
We
you
heard
will
from the
give
CS.
to bring the money back. Not officially, but
The social media handle that we're seeing
Yes.
is that the CS is Mutahi Kagwe's Facebook page. And if it is, why is he choosing to address this on the Facebook page?
it was the way he hardly does post, as he said. But that was an avenue that he was going to use to speak to
So this is
Kenyans
speaking
in general.
off the record.
Right.
You know,
Kuongea mtaani.
this is what happens when you want to obfuscate an issue, complicate it, okay? Let's go back. You don't get money until you've actually explained what it is you need the money for. World Bank authorized $50 million US. Authorized. That means what? Do the maths. 5 billion Kenyan shillings. We're saying 1.3 has been spent. Okay? Right. Now, okay. Let's start by giving the benefit of doubt, shall we? And
Really?
say, no, yes,
Okay.
it's a discussion.
Okay, no problem.
Let's start and say this money was used properly. We've seen the budget lines, expenditure. Explain.
That's it.
That's all we are
That's
asking
all,
for.
by the way.
Explain. That's it.
Because the problem is that we're not even at an accusatory point
No,
right
let's
now.
explain.
No. Just say this is what it means.
When we say this, we mean
this is what we mean.
And to verify, go here.
Especially for accountability purposes. We're talking about not a very long period of time. It's basically a month. Or let's even say,
It's not a year's expenditure.
it's a month.
1 month.
Let's even extend that to 40 days. So within 40 days, you've spent 1.3 billion shillings on these items. Just tell us, all right, let's begin to understand. When you talk about spending over 1 million shillings on tea and snacks for various groups, which are these various groups? Where are they? I mean,
Eric, you know what makes it tricky?
Are they in the
What makes it
office?
tricky? This expenditure over this period was estimated to be 945 million.
initially, that's what you had sought approval
and now
for.
you've gone beyond it. So this other money that you got, where do you get it from?
Yep.
Because if you say this is what has been agreed on, you're told you can actually...
You can draw up to this much.
Yes, you've been told. You've gone beyond it. You'll have to explain. There may be really some very, very, very imminent need for you to overdraw. Simply tell us what these are and where this money went. Nothing complicated.
And when Kenyans start thinking about it and thinking, we are talking about less than 300 cases within that period of time. We are talking about people who have gone into isolation and not stayed for long and they've gone back home. And those that have gone into quarantine, they have paid their way through quarantine. Where have you spent this money? Where exactly, how would you justify saying that you spent 70 million shillings on communication? Where is that communication?
What does this communication involve?
Are you talking about the press conferences that you do? Because media broadcast that press conference for free. You don't pay media for that information. Secondly, so what exactly are you talking about? When you say you've spent 70 million shillings in 30 days for this, it basically just doesn't sit well with anybody in the country. And I think we need to step back and say, maybe you had budgeted for that. Maybe there was a budget line for 70 million shillings. You had anticipated that you're going to do this and the other. And then some of it was given to you in kind by the media. Some of this was given to you in kind by the production houses somewhere. Somebody came and offered to talk on your behalf. Unless you're telling us that the people who have been talking are also getting an allowance.
Right.
Whenever CS Mwangangi stands there, she goes back in, she signs. Umeongelesha media, yes, kwa budget ya production.
Allowance.
Kuchukua ka 40,000.
Unless that is the case.
Unless that's the case, we need to start understanding exactly what this is.
There's also the general notion that why give an explanation to these people? Why do we need to tell them exactly how the money is spent? Well, let's look at 2 reasons for this. Number one, when you're coming to tell Kenyans how terrible the situation is and what you require them to do in order then to curb the spread of this disease, because that's what we're talking about now. We're not talking about anything else except COVID, right? When you come and speak to them, you address them as Kenyans. You're telling them how bad the situation is. You're telling them what you want them to do. You're telling them the measures that you put in place and those that you want them to adhere to and by. It only then makes sense. Then when you get assistance to do all these things that you're commanding them to do, you tell them how you spent it. Number 2, yesterday we spoke with the Danish ambassador to Kenya. What did she say that rang through and through in everything that she spoke about yesterday? We have the people of Denmark to answer to because this is their money. So we are fully vested in this because it is them that we bear responsibility of truth to. Not ourselves sitting in any position of authority. The people of Denmark have sent us. We need to go and give them an answer. How dare you not tell the people of Kenya what's going on with this money?
These are not the millionaires, the billionaires.
No.
These are the simple wananchi, the teachers, the common man.
Yeah.
They give their money so that other people can be helped. Meaning they've gone beyond helping them. So they're saying, look, this money taxes so that other people can be helped. So they need to go back and explain that this money that you gave us, this is how it went. This is how it works. Then someone wants to throw snacks and tea into it.
And then tell you we'll do a report.
And yet there are Kenyans who don't even know where the next million is coming from. And you're talking about people who are paid a salary. They have a salary. Before COVID, they were drinking tea anyway.
The same people that you, Eric, were asking, why are these individuals not taking pay cuts? Why are they not taking pay cuts and speaking to Kenyans in a condescending and patronizing manner like this? Because when you choose not to share information, you're basically telling people that actually, you know what, it's really none of your business. We'll tell you what to do, when to do it, where to sit, where to stand, and in some cases where to kneel, unfortunately.
Do you remember this case of our colleague who worked in a health facility and couldn't get her results? The report she gave us was harrowing. You're being told, Nani, kindly shut your gob, sit in a corner and wait for us to tell you.
You're sending someone. So wait.
Wait. Eric, let me tell you something else. You know, when you talk about these ambulances, many of them fall into the category of what they call a 70 series, and they're called troop carriers. Now, they have 2 tanks, 90 liters each. So it's 180 liters, all right? The range that they can cover is 1,682 on average. If you do the maths, the amount of money that you're being told is allocated, man, that thing doesn't add up by so far. Even if you didn't know arithmetic, you know this arithmetic is false. Now, why they're chosen is because they're versatile. They can go to all sorts of terrain. And if you look at the Red Cross ambulances, they're literally all this sort of ambulance. They are really versatile. And many counties have also bought the same because they're versatile. And they understand that there'll be terrain that an ordinary van or so forth cannot traverse. This arithmetic, you don't even need to scratch below the surface. Even if you just blow the dust on the surface, you'll be the moment you blow the dust, you'll be asking more questions. You come in with the questions you're going to be asking when you're saying, how does this add up? And the other truth is this. It's not as though these ambulances are on the road every single day, every single hour. They are not.
They are not. No, the other thing is, these ambulances were in operation anyway.
That's why they're available.
In the budget, there had been a budget for fueling these vehicles. So we are just basically saying, so initially we had budgeted that these vehicles are going to be, operating for 50 kilometers per day. And now we are expecting them to operate 60 kilometers a day. So you're paying for the extra 10.
The extra 10.
The 50
was already catered
been
for.
Yes.
Even if you are leasing it, there are terms and conditions for leasing.
Yeah.
And it's something that is budgeted for and agreed. And these organizations will already have a preset terms and conditions for leasing. By the way, these are not ambulances that are stationed in Nairobi. They're stationed all over the country, in some of the most remote areas. So they're already there. You don't have to take them there. And this is augmenting the services of other ambulances that already exist in these areas. But it's being presented as though they didn't have anything and now we're providing. Not true. Not true.
It's okay. Those are the ones that you say, okay.
You do say, okay. Do you remember the story of the blood bank? Ambulances, vehicles that were now stationary because those who drove them had been paid, the salary had been paid by the donor. So when the donor did what they had said they were going to do and warned them several times, in short, they cut the funding. These guys, there were no ambulances the ambulances were there, but there was no one to drive them. Now, you look at all this and you ask, what sort of mindset of individuals do you have in this country who seem to think that in the face of the problems we have right now, locusts, floods, COVID-19, you simply want to do, not even as usual, you want to escalate.
In fact, it's an opportunity for you to get more.
Don't blame them. Let's blame the virus.
Yes, let's blame the virus. And let's blame the virus for bringing to the fore now the disagreement and the tussle that has been there for who controls this COVID money. It's out in the open now.
Some of these questions that we're asking, I think it's important for us to understand the budgeting process. Okay.
Yes.
In this hour, we're going to reach out to the head of the Institute for Public Finance. They understand issues of public finance management. He'll explain to us, when you have a budget line like this, what exactly does it mean? How is that money spent? How is it drawn? Can you get money from this line and put into the other line? Are you factoring in the fact that this had already been budgeted for elsewhere? Let's ask those questions from an expert. That's what we'll be doing in the next hour, within this hour, when you come out of this short break. Good morning. It's 17 minutes after 7.
Let's look at weather conditions. In Nairobi, we see partly cloudy conditions, chances of showers quite high, fog quite low in some parts of the city. Highs of 24 and lows of 15 today. In Nyeri, it's cloudy conditions at 17 degrees, showers already being experienced in some parts. Highs of 23 and lows of 16. Nakuru is cloudy at 16 degrees, thunderstorms expected later with highs of 23 and lows of 14. It's clear skies currently in Eldoret, but that's going to cloud up very soon with highs of 21 and lows of 13. Thunderstorms expected in the afternoon. It's a rainy Kisumu this morning at 20 degrees. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 19. And rain likely to carry on through most of the weekend. In Malindi at 25 degrees, it's partly cloudy. Showers were experienced in some parts of the town. It will continue later though. Highs of 29 and lows of 25. 25 degrees in Mombasa and mostly cloudy. We'll see rain showers later. Highs of 28 and lows of 24. In Kampala at 20 degrees, it's cloudy conditions all through. Rain showers expected later with highs of 24 and lows of 19. In 25 degrees in Dar es Salaam, cloudy conditions, and the rain has started there officially as well. Highs of 29 and lows of 24. Joburg is clear skies at 9 degrees, highs of 21 and lows of 7. The sun will shine through the weekend. And for now, in Lagos at 26 degrees, it's clear skies. Periodic clouds later with highs of 33 and lows of 26.
So, City, you started on the premise of let's give them the benefit of the doubt, right?
Let's give them the benefit of the doubt.
Because you don't believe that everybody was sitting somewhere and saying, okay, hii pesa inakuja, sasa, let's just fill it out. The bottom line here is it has to come to 1 billion shillings. Now, you know the way you start working backwards. 1 billion shillings. What is the most obvious thing? PPE, lab, equipment, what else? We need ambulances. That's a nice one. Put it in there. What else? Now, tumebaki na
You know, as you're saying that, you're saying you can't expect, you would be surprised that that's
30
actually
million
people
shillings.
that may sit around the table.
They
and
will do
this.
that, of course.
Yes.
They'll work backwards, but then they have to look at what it makes logical sense. What's completely logical. We have 30 million shillings left. Like, unajua watu watakunywa chai. Oh yeah. Tea and snacks for various groups. We budgeted for this amount because we don't know how these meetings are going to be held. We don't know. We basically, at this point of budgeting, we don't know how things are going to look like. So we're just expecting that there are going to be meetings at some point, and we'll need to think of some sort of catering for those meetings. Okay, so let's put in that amount and let's see if it's used, if it's not used. Here, the downside here is that the money is actually used.
Yes, unfortunately.
For some meetings. Meetings happen and that money is spent.
It's called package.
It goes.
It's package. Package is hall, stationery, nini, snacks, package.
Package.
It's called packs. Number of people.
Number of
Oh, right, packs. Got it.
Number of people. That's how it's worked out. Not nini.
No.
This package.
50 packs.
Yeah.
At 1,500 per person times 50 packs.
That's how it worked out.
Fill it out.
Donors cottoned on to this thing a long time and cancelled it. Carry on tea. We're paying for this tea.
And then we're saying, all right, so we're going to need to be communicating with our health workers around the country. So how many do we have? Let's work with 500, the initial number, okay? If we need more, we shall increase. But this 500 people, we need to make sure that we facilitated them for the communication. Buy airtime for them. Airtime, how much? Let's be realistic, okay? If you give somebody 1,000 bob and then we don't even know whether this thing is going to blow up, we don't know. At this point of budgeting, we don't know how things are going to look like. Let's give it a ceiling of 4,000 shillings. So in case we need to spend 4,000 shillings or 3,000, at least we are within the budget, as opposed to saying let's give it 1,000 and then things change and you have to spend 1,500. You don't know where to get that money from. So you've budgeted for 4,000. The bad side of this thing is that you actually end up spending the 4,000.
And unfortunately, not on the thing
million.
for which you had budgeted for.
Million.
4,000 per person.
Per person.
Okay.
Sending airtime 4,000 per
The way
person.
this thing normally works, over time.
And then you tell us
it's been
500 people. Obviously, you have not engaged 500 people in this first 30 days and given all of them the airtime for 4,000.
Let me tell you.
You'd expect that this would be
You have
obvious.
smartphones that cost 2,000 bob. Okay? So even if you throw in the telephone, again,
Buy the phone. Buy a phone and load it with airtime.
what?
It's not 4,000. Oh, chicken.
So we are assuming some of these 500 people, some of them don't have phones.
Let's take that view that you just buy phones for all these people. Let me tell you how it works out. Huh? It is in your interest to provide the airtime and even the bundles. We assume you may need
Yep.
the bundles
Yep.
and even buy the phone.
Yep.
Again, you get a package deal. Okay? Packs. So everybody has, you're not confusing bundle, but you know the beauty of it? You are able to tabulate how this thing is used.
Yes. And it does not have to end up being the exact amount that you budgeted
When there's
for.
an
When
exact
you
amount, you
budget
have a
for
problem.
something, if you budget for something for 4,000 shillings, you're thinking, all right, let me just go above.
Could be
Just in case.
3,670.
But you end
It's
up
called
spending.
contingency.
Yes. You end up spending less. When you say, I budgeted for
And
4,000
I
for
used
500
4,000.
people, and I used the exact
lie.
pana.
You know, we normally talk
500
about...
health workers around the country in the last
They've
30
all
days.
used their 4,000.
You won't go.
It's a lie. It's a lie.
Look, these places where we don't have any COVID reported, what are you using the phone for?
Ding dong.
The vast majority of people in this country don't need, because the numbers are so low. It's just part of the normal illnesses. What do you need that bundle and the airtime for?
You're basically dealing with one or two officers
But that's really it.
In
It's
the
like the
county.
surveillance people in the entire county.
in the county. One or two officers at this particular
And
stage.
before
Somebody in
COVID,
Turkana
you had a
is not
means of
getting.
communicating with each other if there was
Yeah.
a problem.
So now you're only talking about, okay, so we need to engage you a bit more, city, because you're going around, you're a health worker, we give you more airtime. You're in Nairobi, you're in Kilifi, you're in Mombasa. Somebody who is in Lamu, in Tana River, in Turkana, in Marsabit, they don't need to receive
Not
5,000
only that,
shillings.
let's throw in another reality. These places that are far-flung already have donor-funded projects that work with these people. So you're not coming into a tabula rasa, this blank state, which you are the one who needs to fill in. Blank table.
I made a note.
So the thing is, you already come into a situation, these very wanting situations, they already have help. Believe it or not, they do. There are people who saw this, got funding, and are working. So it's not as though you suddenly need all this. You don't. What you do is you need for the health workers whom you've allocated to work in this field. And my friend, they will not be more than 10. Because essentially what their work is normally supervisory. The people already doing the work. This money that you're talking about, man, it is difficult to explain. And how it was all spent, and it all went. It's very difficult to explain.
This one, for them to convince, look, at this point, for them to convince Kenyans that what they say, what they're suspecting actually did not happen, it's an uphill task. This one, to convince Kenyans
Do you remember
that this
what
is actually not the
It's
case.
gonna be hard.
It's going to be
Do you
very,
remember
very
how
difficult.
our very honorable ambassador spoke to us and told us? You know, all of them told us about the healthcare support that they're giving. EU gives more support than America. They just don't shout about it, they don't make noise about it, but they do. When they say support, you know what it means? The people they pay, they give you equipment, this airtime, they give you. They even understand that you need to eat when you go to the field. They give you. Okay? So it's already provided
It's
for.
already provided
So this is the money that they're telling us. It's for what exactly?
Well, CS Kagwe took to social media yesterday. And if I can just read what he said. Obviously, at some point, it affected him at 2000 hours yesterday. Good evening. I have debated posting tonight, but I'm doing so because I read your comments and appreciate your sentiments and fears. As a Kenyan, I too have been disappointed by leaders who fail us for the reasons that span inefficiency to corruption. The allegations you are seeing are based on this trend. Public skepticism and pessimism. I get it. And so I am here to let you know that among us is a cohort that believes in exploitation and that thinks that by spreading lies, innuendo and propaganda, I will be intimidated and worse, lose the trust of you, the Kenyans, who believe in our cause and my integrity. They want us sidetracked. I am no greenhorn. I have seen such mischief before, wasn't intimidated then, and will not be intimidated now. Watch my actions. They will illustrate this. The job at hand is simple: save lives in the most cost-efficient way and accomplish this in collaboration with the people in this position devotes me to you. So, in pointing out the fakeness of the financial analyses making the circuit, I am sure that you will agree with me that this is not the appropriate forum for me to delve into detailed accounting, balance sheets, it all. But that is coming. You need transparency, and you will get it in a manner detailed enough for your critical analyses. Suffice to say, there will be no theft of COVID-19 resources under my watch. And if there is any truth regarding the misuse of COVID-19 funds beyond being disheartened, I guarantee you that those responsible will be out of the ministry faster than we can blink. Propaganda or not, we will sensitize the healthcare system. So God help us.
Oh, yeah, Mutai.
On a brighter note,
Oh, yeah.
Shelter Freak have donated 1 million shillings worth of kits to Kenya Medical Research Institute.
All right.
There are too many donations. I'm saying too many with that negative connotation. There are too many donations.
This is direct to Kemri, directly for kids. And the CEO of Shelter Freak, a gentleman by the name of Andrew Chimpondo Da, I'm actually pronouncing it as written.
We can't hear you, City.
You can't hear me. Can
That's
you hear me
better.
now?
That's better.
Thank you. I'm saying the CEO of Shelter Freak, a gentleman by the name of Andrew Chimpondo, Chimponda.
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 There are many H's here. Chimponda, I think, really gets to it. My apologies, sir, for mispronouncing your name. I'll stick with Andrew. It's easier. The donation was made and was received by the Kemri Director General Nyeri Kombe. He said the kits would boost the institute's testing capacity and to help effectively identify the infected people for isolation at the earliest opportunity. He says the country is testing an average of 700 samples against a daily capacity of 30,000.
Is this going to be accounted for?
It has to be accounted for. If it's a donation, it has to be accounted for.
So is it going to be added? So are we looking at how much did Kemri need in terms of kits and all? How many have been donated through various
that we have not been informed, and we should be informed.
How much is it? Do we need to fill? What's the gap that we need to fill? Because I think
we don't know. We don't know, and that's where we should start from.
And when we have, okay.
No, Eric, you have a point. Kemri's capacity is this. These kits will fill in. The need is this. This donation will fill this capacity. So Kemri will be able to step up their game by this capacity. That is what we need to hear. This is too brief a summary of what has gone on. And when you say kits, what do you mean? Do you mean testing kits only? Do you mean the PPEs? What do you mean?
So was it received by Kemri?
Yes, it was. Nyeri Kombe, the Director General for Kemri is called Nyeri Kombe.
Is there a coordination between what Kemri is doing vis-a-vis what the National Coordinating Committee is doing?
There's a bit of a confusion there, if you put it really mildly. And the reason why the money that was given directly to the national body, the fight has been who controls what. This one, there's no fight. It went directly to Kemri. Direct, Kemri, is yours. But rest assured, somebody's going to bring in the national people and say, this money.
The reason I'm raising this issue is because you may find that some organization gets more than they require at this point, and another organization that's doing the same job is sitting there and they need it. And because there's been this fight of who gets what, the guys who have gotten will not give those who don't have. Fight lost. 7:30. This is a situation. Let's take a look at traffic, and when we come back out of this conversation, we'll be speaking to a gentleman called James Moragori. He is the country director for Institute of Public Finance. We need to understand what's his budgeting process. Good morning.
Okay, let's look at the situation on the roads right now. It's not looking too bad. From Jogger Road, trying to get into the CBD, right around the City Stadium roundabout. Not too bad. There was a bit of a hold up there. I don't know why and where people are going this morning, but all right. That seems to be opening up. Through most parts of the city, you will not find any traffic. The roads are slippery, though, so if you do get out, we're asking you to be very, very careful. The Met has warned us of the likelihood of more flooding this weekend, likely to see heightened rain from tonight, taking us all through to Monday morning. So you want to plan around that. The Maimahiu Narok Road is still under construction. They've told us that it will take a couple of days. Let's see what that will look like. We'll try and get in touch with Kenha and see if that will be opened up for business this weekend. Apart from that, it looks pretty good everywhere else. Spice FMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. We'll let you know what the situation is in other parts of the city in a bit.
At 26 minutes to 8 o'clock. Happy Labor Day. Welcome to The Situation. This is
Spice
Kenya's
up
biggest
your life.
conversation in the room. We have Eric Latif, CT Muga, Nduoko. We
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up
calm
yourself.
ourselves down from the outrage of looking at how much has been spent by the Ministry of Health in the fight against COVID-19 in just 1 month. 1.3 billion shillings is money that has reportedly been spent. And this is according to figures presented to the National Assembly Committee on Health by the Ministry of Health. Among those budget items, we are seeing some things that basically people are questioning. Why? Explain. In a month, how can you say that you budgeted for this and this is how much you spent? And we're saying let's give these people the benefit of the doubt. In that at budgeting stage, they put in these figures. This is what we anticipate to do because we don't know. Remember, even at the beginning of April, their own estimations were showing we may have, in worst case scenario, we could be at this kind of numbers in terms of those who have tested positive, those who are actually sick, and the number of deaths. So working with worst case scenarios, maybe the person who's budgeting was working with those figures. Now let's try and understand the expenditure in line with the reality. To understand this, let's talk to the Institute of Public Finance CEO. His name is James Muragori. Good morning, James.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for speaking to us, and Karibu, welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you for having me.
Happy Labor Day.
To you too.
Now, you've heard what we're discussing. This is all about public finance management and all. First, tell us about IPF.
The Institute of Public Finance is a research institution that assesses government budget transparency, research on how citizens participate in the budget process, and undertakes training in public finance management.
Mm-hmm. So basically, you look at government, at how our money is being spent.
Yeah, we look at how taxes are being spent, how taxes are being planned,
Yep.
and how citizens are being involved in the budgeting process.
So give us just some basic education from the very onset on how this is done. So let's take a look at this particular case that we're dealing with. We are fighting COVID-19.
Yes.
This was not anticipated for when the previous finance CS was presenting a budget to Parliament.
Yes.
So it wasn't budgeted for. But now we're required to spend money into it. We are dedicating some money from other projects into this, and we are also receiving some special assistance from friends.
Yes.
Now, budget that for us. What kind of thinking goes into creating this budget?
So, as a country, we budget from the 1st of July to 30th of June each year. So those are 12 months of spending taxes by government. Now, we also anticipate what we call there will be unforeseen expenditures.
Mm-hmm.
Unforeseen expenditures are taken care of by a contingency fund which is established under the Constitution of Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
in the absence of adequate resources in the contingency fund, or need to move money from one program to the other, the government produces what is called a supplementary budget.
Yep.
And the supplementary budget is prepared by the National Treasury in consultation with the rest of the ministries, and then it is taken to Parliament for approval.
Mm-hmm.
So in this particular case, even the money that has been received by donors will be factored in the supplementary budget and approved by Parliament. And we saw Parliament approving supplementary budget 2, and which was signed by the President yesterday.
Yes.
So, but in the meantime, however, before we have Parliament approve the unforeseen expenditure, the Cabinet Secretary of Finance is allowed by law to spend and then subject that expenditure to Parliament for approval. Essentially, it is approved, let's say, progressively.
Okay.
It's spent and then approved.
After it has been spent.
Yes, which is up to a maximum of 10%.
Okay.
And also, it's also allowed that in that supplementary budget, the PFM does not anticipate any new program will be introduced. It's only expected that you can move resources. So, like now we have this pandemic. It's actually a public health issue. It's not really a new program that has been introduced. We are just responding to an unforeseen health issue within the health programming. Because in the health budget, we have preventive, we have curative, and we have administrative costs. Preventive is where we do public awareness, like what we are doing at the commercial corona. We are doing a lot of public awareness.
Yep.
Curative is where we will have to actually buy medicine, to cure. And administrative costs and health policy options at the Ministry of Health budget take care of the rest of the costs, which are administrative.
Okay.
And that means our budget will run through 4 processes. We will have formulation, where we will have government-involved citizens to formulate the budget and make submission, input, and say we want our money to go to this place and not this place. Then we will have the second stage, which is approval by Parliament. Then we will have implementation. And then we will have oversight and audit by both Parliament and the Office of the Auditor General.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, where we are at, we've already started spending some money that we've received.
Yes.
The report that was tabled in Parliament, which is what is raising some hue and cry,
Yes.
is indicating that money that had been donated by the World Bank
Yes.
and had been budgeted to a tune of 900 and what, CT?
46.
900 and something million
Yeah.
has actually been overspent to the tune of 1.3 billion.
Yeah.
And then the items that have consumed that money are what is raising the issues. We have hired ambulances, we have tea and snacks, we have accommodation, we have communication and printing and such. So how would it be that that amount of money would be spent over such a period of time, a short period of time?
To say the least of all, from where I stand, it's ridiculous to spend $1 billion, even in a government agency, a single government agency in a month. It does not end up. And I think there is need for these figures to be interrogated further. And I think at this particular point, because I understand, I have not seen the document that, the official document that's been circulating, and taking into consideration right now, Kenya doesn't have an Auditor General, then it becomes extremely very difficult for the population to understand exactly what is going on. Because the Parliament can request the Auditor General to do an immediate audit on that particular item, because the Parliament has authority to request the Auditor General to conduct that particular audit. And this is where we talk about, the opaqueness or the level of transparency of budget.
Yeah.
Because when we say this information, it's very, if you look at what the screenshots are circulating, it's in ballpark figures.
Yeah.
So you cannot tell exactly this ambulance for 42 million, or allegedly 42 million, what is the single cost of each item?
Yes.
And we would like to see how much per day are we costing, because patches of a new ambulance is essentially a pretty manageable figure. And because we know the government of Kenya has moved into a leasing program for its vehicles, then that amount of money would raise suspicion. And why would we spend the whole amount of money for a single month when the COVID is not over?
It's not
There
over,
you go.
exactly.
James, if we look at the process, budgeting, and then after that, because budgeting doesn't just stop at saying how you're going to spend the money, right? It ends when you're giving a report on then how the money was spent.
Yes.
If you're looking at that process, shouldn't it have been that, is it that when a report is being given, an initial expenditure report, should those results have been at the end of an audit, or should they have just been preliminary results and then we come back and say they're actually being scrutinized, we'll give you the exact lines later? Does that process make sense?
It does. So essentially what would happen is right now, in April, we are expecting to have the third quarter report of the financial year 2019-2020 in terms of implementation, where we are. We are still in the financial year, government financial year 2019-2020. So then monthly reports should have been provided by the accounting officers to the CS, for example, and onwards to Parliament. But an audit report will come at the end of the financial year.
Okay.
Between July and December, constitutionally we are required to have audited our accounts. And then after every 3 months, we produce what's called a quarterly budget implementation report,
Okay.
which is done by the Controller of Budget, which is an independent office, and the National Treasury, which does consolidation of the ministry, departments, and agencies at the national level. So this particular item, for example, at the ministry, which has been provided to Parliament, which I understand by the CS, it's preliminary. And we expect that this now should be part of the consolidated report that will be in the fourth quarter of the financial year 2019-2020.
Okay.
However, we still insist that considering the issues that it has raised, then Parliament has a responsibility under the Public Accounts Committee or the Budget and Appropriation Committee to request the Office of the Auditor General to dig deeper and give a report on that particular expenditure. And it's also a responsibility as citizens and taxpayers we throw back to the World Bank to demand more accountability and transparency.
Okay. Now, would it work later? And why I say I'm asking later is this is what we've been, from the reports that we see today in the news, is that according to the Ministry of Health, for this, would it make sense to them circle back later and say, all right, we're giving you an explanation and this is how it worked? Coming off the premise that you said it actually is ridiculous to spend 1 billion shillings in a month. It's not possible to be able to do that with the reasons that we are seeing. Would it then be possible for them to circle back and say, actually, this is how it was spent, this is the rationale behind it? Would it make sense then?
It should make sense, because what we are seeking is transparency around spending of those resources. And you can never understand responsibility or transparency until at the point at which a breakdown is provided. So if you tell us you spent 4 million on tea and snacks, for example, in terms of level of special, we want to know the Ministry of the Department for Health, the Ministry of Health has these 20 departments, and each department got this amount of money. All this is just the COVID Secretariat in the Ministry of Health that consumed this amount of money. And it also takes us to the question around open contracting. Who is this who's supplying? Are we cooking tea in the office, or are we buying from hotels so that we can consume this? Because those are the things that, budget transparency increases trust between citizen and the state. Because because it's my taxes. If you increase transparency, then I'm more inclined to be more compliant in paying my taxes, because I know where they are going. Because let's all agree that actually the people who work at the ministry require to take a cup of tea, for example. They require papers.
They do.
By all means, that will require. But we are also telling them, please, can you tell us which type of paper is this that you're using that is costing this much amount of money?
Yes.
Who is the supplier? Because of course, Kenyans now at the point where we are, from all the scandals we've seen, supplying air and supplying, all these things.
Indeed.
We are very cautious when it comes to our taxes, and everything that comes out, we scrutinize it much more and much more.
Mr.
Yeah.
Maraguri, I want to ask this question as a layman. Huh?
Yes.
I want to presume that when money is given to you by donors, it is based on a certain budgeting, a certain processes, which gives us the amounts that are needed. Am I right so far?
Absolutely.
Now, so it isn't very difficult to determine whether what we said we're going to use the money for has actually been used for what we say we wanted to use it for.
Absolutely.
So it shouldn't be difficult to determine whether the government has actually used this money in the manner that they said they would. And arguably, at every stage, whether it's weekly, they should be able to tell us what it is they've spent the money on, really.
They should.
Why are we having this discussion when we know very well that we ought to have a very simple explanation as to how the money was drawn and how it was spent? What would
In
you
fact-
think? Yes, carry on, please.
In fact, this takes us to just to put it into context to the open budget survey results that we launched yesterday.
Yes.
Kenya is ranked 49th globally and 4th in Africa in terms of transparency. Because it means we don't provide citizens with comprehensive information. Now, this information that we are asking, because the World Bank gave a grant to the Kenyan government. I believe that contract is available at World Bank. Most likely, it's available at the World Bank website for that 1 billion. It was very comprehensive on how that money was going.
Yes.
So it's not very difficult for us to get a progress report and tell us, for this line item, we spent this much. We were required to spend this much. As they were saying, with a breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
You see, because what we are interested right now is to know this leasing of ambulance for 42 million. Is it an ICU bed? So that it contributes to the 1,000 ICU beds that the CS had talked, because we want to put everything into context.
Yeah.
Yeah? And citizens want to understand, when you say that we spent almost $1 billion, from where I sit, most Kenyans cannot relate with $1 billion.
No.
You know what we're talking about, $1 billion?
Mm-hmm.
Because putting minimum wage into a Kenyan pocket is difficult in this economy.
Yes.
So when you talk about $1 billion, that there is no clarity on how it's been spent. It's actually an abuse of the expenditure process.
Yep.
Because first of all, you need to tell that Kenyan who cannot afford a meal a day and has to survive right now on goodwill from Kenyans who are contributing through cash transfers, and government cash transfers, that you spent $1 billion or 4 million on tea and snacks. That this is how breakdown of expenditure looks like. We want to be more expensive. And you're still calling Kenyans to contribute to the COVID fund.
Of course.
But you're telling Kenyans to spend more money. You spent 4 million on tea and snacks.
No.
Something does not add up.
And buying paper. James, when you look at, so let's start from the point where the budget was presented, it was taken to the donor, it was taken to the seniors, people in the ministry and at the National Treasury. It was approved. The budget was approved, okay?
Yes.
But when it comes to the expenditure, isn't there supposed to be some continuous approval?
Absolutely. The approval process in government is very elaborate.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is somebody who has the responsibility to incur an expenditure.
Yes.
It is not everybody. It's not everybody who can wake up and say, it's very definite. Government financial manual systems, it dictates that so-and-so is the one responsible for approving this item in the government system, in the government banking system. And actually the government, over the last few months, we've seen the government improve the system so much that it has used a lot of cash handling.
Mm-hmm.
So it essentially means that the money we are talking about, 4 million, if it came into the consolidated fund, because first of all we need to understand that government money, wherever all the sources come, it comes to something called consolidated fund in the central bank account.
Mm-hmm.
It does not go to a ministry account. It goes to the consolidated funds.
All right.
And then the National Treasury authorizes the central bank to disburse that to a ministry account.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ministry account, they do not receive that money in cash. Essentially, if you're saying that the money was held in cash, the money actually, there is audit trail that the money moved from the consolidated fund,
Yep.
central bank, to James as the tea cook, the person who cooks the tea
Yep.
in the office. It came to that account.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are saying that 4 million went, it's possible that actually there is somebody responsible for that account moving from consolidated fund under the e-banking system for government
Mm-hmm.
to authorize it to go to what we would call like a retail account, a consumer account.
Yep.
The person then got that money and went and bought tea. but no literally saying that hard cash moved from central bank to the ministry, and then so it's very clear. So in terms of the leakage would happen when that money leaves central bank to that person's consumer account, and that's where we need to understand and say that as stringent as this process of finance, government accounting is, what is our problem? And that's the problem that we need to deal with.
Mr. Muraguri, when we hear things like money has been allocated, money has been set aside, what does it mean?
Money has been allocated. It means the budget. First of all, we need to understand that the budget is a tool. It's an intention. The budget is an intention to spend. So when you allocate, you have made an intention to spend. But you don't have to spend. There's no need.
Exactly.
Are medical equipments exempt from tax in this country?
Medical equipment. Now, the tax amendment laws that were approved a week ago or 2 weeks ago and signed by the president on 25th moved the medical equipment moved from what we call zero-rated to exempt, which was a big mistake we made because they just made them expensive. Now, when they are under the zero-rated category, it means that the people who are producing them locally can claim input tax. But this input tax means that the cost of VAT that you'll incur in producing that PPE or a medical equipment or an ICU bed, you can claim it. But when it comes to exempt, it means you cannot claim that. So we don't know the wisdom that led to the proposition to move them from zero rate to exempt. Because it has just made the cost of medical equipment and PPEs and all that be more expensive.
Become more expensive. So basically, what we are saying is the facility in Kitui that's producing PPEs, for instance, is paying VAT when it's buying the material, the raw material.
Exactly.
But
and they cannot claim.
They cannot claim that VAT.
Yes.
So they pass it on to the taxpayer because they are selling to the.
Absolutely, which now becomes more expensive for people to afford those medical equipment and facilities.
And does it apply to the same equipment if it's imported?
Now, because now they are exempt, they will fall under the exempt. But you see, probably from where they are coming from, the regime at that particular point might be allowing them to recover their costs. So they'll be cheaper. So it means that what's produced locally cannot compete with what is imported.
So the game here, I see where you guys are going. So we are making the locally produced a bit more expensive than...
No, more expensive. 14% is a lot of expense.
Than the imported ones.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So over time, these companies that were thinking, now they can start competing, they'll basically be told, okay, we are done with you. We are now getting our beds still cheaper from wherever.
Absolutely.
Okay. Back to the issue of approval at the expenditure stage.
Yeah.
Because we are saying 900 million shillings plus was budgeted for, and that was okayed. And then when it comes now to drawing the money and actually spending, there's somebody who sits and says and approves, yes, we had budgeted for 500 people to receive 4,000 shillings in airtime.
Yeah.
And there's somebody who signs off that.
Absolutely.
This person who's signing off that at this point, this is the person we should be asking, who are these 500 people? Did you actually verify that they are there? Was there a need to spend this amount at once, at a go, in a month?
Absolutely. We need to ask the person with the overall responsibility of accounting in a ministry is the permanent secretary. The principal secretary, rather.
Yes.
That's the person who has the accounting, the authority to incur expenditure. Of course, there will be the delegated component, the delegated authority within the ministry. But overall, the burden of responsibility should be borne by the principal secretary, who should now give us, what we are looking for right now because of the apprehension, the mistrust that's been created around this, and which will affect, for example, the contributions to the COVID fund itself.
Yep.
Is we want a breakdown, like you have said, that who is this who qualified for airtime? Right? What is this procurement process? We understand if we did leasing, first of all, they need to say, by the way, we did leasing. These are the ambulances.
Yep.
You can find them.
You show us the ambulances.
because we also need to get to a point where it's verifiable,
Yeah.
objectively verifiable,
Yep.
procurement component, and saying these are here, and the PS says this is how we incur. They should not be afraid, because these expenditures do not interfere with with national security.
True. As we conclude, James.
Yes.
In the event the duty bearers don't do what they're supposed to do, now we're talking about Parliament, the Budget and Appropriations Committee, or the Public a Public Accounts Committee. If they don't ask the Auditor General to commence an audit, what recourse do we have as citizens?
So a citizen can deploy a number of measures. One of the measures that citizen can deploy is through the constitutionally provided access to information.
Mm-hmm.
They can write through the Office of Commission for Administrative Justice and write to the ministry to request for that particular information.
Mm-hmm.
That information is legally, as a citizen, you can write to the ministry and request them to provide you with the breakdown of that information. And this, the commission, the ombudsman, for those who know, the ombudsman office in Kenya has been very proactive in supporting citizen engagement around getting information from government.
Right.
And also, we can also legally through the courts of law demand that this information be made available as a question of public interest.
Okay. James Muraguri, the Chief Executive Officer of the Institute of Public Finance, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you very much for having me.
As we let you go, we always have the proverb of the day. Listen to today's proverb from C.T. Muga.
One who bathes willingly with cold water doesn't feel the cold.
You got that?
Yes, I do.
Asante sana. Have a good day, James.
Have a good day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's 8 o'clock. Good morning.
All right. Okay, so not looking bad anywhere that we see this morning. No traffic. We had some traffic earlier this morning, right around Gitanga Road, like we said. It seems that Labor Day waits for no man, or rather, no man waits for Labor Day, and the hustle continues on this particular morning. Hopefully that has cleared up, but then feeding on to Ngong Road and then other parts of the city from there could be a little bit of a hiccup, but not really. Spice FM KE, if you see or hear anything that we should know about, we'll give you information shortly about the Mai Mahiu Narok Road. Not that you should be leaving Nairobi anyway, but for those who might be on that neck of the woods and need to make a movement here or there, we'll let you know. Spice FM KE, like I said, that's how you can reach us on Twitter, and we'll spread the word once we get it.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice,
I hadn't gotten on
communications
that
expert,
story of
Pan-African.
why the budget, the tax amendment bill had raised an issue and it went and passed. The issue of zero rating or tax exempting medical equipment. Mm-hmm. Now I get it.
Now you get it.
It's basically the entrepreneurs just pulling the strings.
They are. And they just make it possible for even local manufacturers and entrepreneurs to die.
They're basically saying you cannot produce this thing. Look, you cannot. Even if you produce, it's going to be more expensive than me, who's just going to find it somewhere else.
And what they do is tweak the law so that you're more expensive.
You're more expensive.
So Kenyans killing Kenyan enterprise.
And here we are talking about Big Four agenda supporting manufacturing. And the president has signed this thing.
it's not going to produce the results. Remember, when it comes to even donations, if you want supplementation, the donations ought to be given with the understanding that if they were brought in and costed, they would be more expensive than what is local. So you allow the local enterprises to thrive by simply enabling them to thrive, but you also make sure that if it's donated, then it means it is something that will supplement what we already have. And it won't cost you a thing, except for probably transporting it. And we've had many cases where donors have actually supported. I know about the coast where, for the longest time, the Middle East and the Arab countries have been supporting Mombasa County, Mombasa Municipality. They supported it with the dual carriageway from Nyeri Bridge to Mtwapa. They supported them with lighting, again, from Likoni Ferry up to Kunda. They supported them with equipment for hospitals that could have equipped all the hospitals within Mombasa and beyond. But this thing wasn't going to move.
It wasn't.
It wasn't. The equipment came in, it went back. Then under Hassan Ali Joho, do you see the things that they're doing?
Yep.
Those are donations. You need to go, if you knew what was Coast General Hospital and you know it now, my friend, that thing has improved. It's a beautiful hospital to be in. You can actually afford to fall sick. If you look at the referral hospital for COVID-19 at TUM, my friend, that place is beautiful too. Now, how many projects do you think have there?
The unfortunate thing, well, I like the story of donations, but I also at the same time I wish we were talking about how to look at the Dedan Kimathi University, the technical whatever institution in Kitui, now that they are showing that they have the capacity. The companies in Nakuru and all, now they're showing that they have the capacity.
They had capacity for a long time.
Right? And now they're demonstrating that we are able to. They have just gotten the standard of approval from KEBS to produce the PPEs. Now that we are seeing that this is possible, why not just say that in future, you in Kitui will be the ones who are producing PPEs for our health system in the country. We work with supporting that, right? Instead of those games that have been played where we're going to make it more expensive for Kitui to produce PPEs for the country and make it easier for some entrepreneurs somewhere to go and import PPEs.
You know, this is a progressive enterprise in that the need far outstrips our production capacity. You know where donors usually come in is when we've exhausted our own capacity and we still need help. Then donors are useful. But with the time, that donor reliance reduces.
And I'm sure even the donor can come to a point where they're increasing the capacity of this institution to produce more.
To produce better, not just more, to produce better and to produce more.
Not just giving us the finished product, but supporting our industry to grow and produce and sustain itself.
Eric, do you know why it makes sense? Our cost of production is lower. We pay people less money than those countries. That's why do you think people move to China? So the partnership can go beyond just that. It can go beyond we are the ones who are producing even for them simply because we produce it cheaper. But no.
Tax and levy.
Our entrepreneurs will skew. That's the word, skew. You don't add an R to it. Skew this thing so that it is so lopsided, you actually can't believe what you're seeing. And because it's muddled up in economic jargon, you have the time you don't even understand what it is they're saying.
And we the Kenyans are skewed with an R.
Yes. Should we say it comprehensively? Yes.
Properly.
Eric, you've heard me say on many occasions, there's nothing we can't do here. And this is not magic thinking. And then I say we have money. I mean what I'm saying. We do. We do have we've had the capacity. All we needed to do was expand the capacity. Right here in Gigiri, we have the TTC, the KTC. Most people don't even know it exists. This thing was sponsored by the Canadians. My brother, the things those people have and the stuff they can do. We are this automotive center.
The Kenya Technical Teachers College.
What can they not do? Exactly. This place that we used to call the Polytechnic or the Polytechnic, the things they could do. For the longest time, our technical services in this country relied on them for personnel because they were really very well trained. And you know what? They were all over the country. They were allowed to die as we watched. They were technical schools, not colleges. Technical schools where you studied the academic stuff, but you were allowed, the majority, the focus was on technical stuff. So it means we were producing people who have a technical leaning, who could then move on to the TVETs as we call them. We had it. They were killed. We're now starting from scratch again. And we had them. So when I say we have the means, when I say we have the manpower, when I say we have the resources, I'm saying something I know. We do.
The resources, the expertise, the manpower is something that we do. We've also been talking about this when it comes to the education sector. The Kenya Institute for Curriculum Development, right? It's there. It has the capacity. It's the one that has been producing curriculum, working on the syllabus.
And they do a
brilliant job. And people who've gone through the system, of course, the products from the very beginning of the KICD, formerly known KIE. Now, we've been talking about what happened after schools were closed. In the middle of March, and how KICD came in and immediately rolled out a program.
Within that week.
Said, all right, so this is what we're going to do. Poop, move it here. Let's move. Now we are in another situation where we are not sure whether we are opening schools or whether we are not opening schools. And we've been saying we need to talk to KICD. So let's talk to KICD, okay? Joining us on the line is Patrick Andika. He's a senior officer at the Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. Is it off or for?
Let's just call it off and for.
It is Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development.
All right.
Okay.
Good morning, Patrick.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for speaking to us in the Situation Room. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
Let's start from the very beginning. So this, and we've been discussing about how you quickly rolled out the radio and TV program.
Yeah.
Was it something that was new, or was it something that was still happening even before the 15th of March?
As you know, Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development is a state corporation established under the KICD Act of 2013. And the KICD has a mandate of developing curriculum for all levels of education below the university. It also has a mandate of developing programs for education, especially for teachers, and even developing and disseminating programs through mass media. So even before the pandemic came in, KICD has had radio programs. Radio programs have been in existence in this country for over 20 years, being aired by KBC. KICD also had set up the Edu channel, which is an educational TV program that airs TV programs for learners, especially for primary schools and for secondary schools. And then KICD had also set up the Kenya Education Cloud, which is an online program with diverse digital content suitable for teachers and even learners. And this is the program which allows learners to be able to access even the TV programs, and they can also be able to access educational resources. Like all our publishers have been able to upload their materials, especially the instructional materials, the textbooks, on the Kenyan Education Cloud. So this was something that was going on even before, except that probably not so many Kenyans or learners were accessing these programs because of the way we have structured our education system, where the teachers have believed that teaching is all about talk and chalk. And so you will find that the utilization of other alternative programs of delivering the same lesson has been low. But there are programs that have been ongoing, and that's why it was easier at KICD. Immediately we had the pandemic and the schools were closed on the 15th of March. It was easier for us now to be able to tell the public that these programs are there and the learners can be occupied while they are at home.
Right. Now,
Yes.
is this something that came for them to do, that was meant to be part of the current curriculum or the syllabus, or was it something that was developed that they could use to be engaged with so that they don't go to a lull over this time period when they were out of school?
Basically, the COVID pandemic has just given us an opportunity to be able to continue to do what we have been doing. So what we are offering is part of the Kenyan education curriculum. And that is why if you have been able to access our TV programs either on DSTV, on StarTime, GoTV, or all the other channels, you will see that we are having the teachers and they are presenting from the curriculum. And they are saying, this is the topic that we are going to cover for this class. as part of the curriculum. So they are not out of curriculum activities or content that is being covered on radio and TV.
Right, but then is it informational subjects that they would maybe be tested on, or then be bound by some kind of knowledge measurement to say that, well, it was on TV, you should have learned about this? Is that something they can be held by?
Is it a continuation of the curriculum?
Basically, what we are saying, because of the diversity of our educational system, normally even when we prepare the syllabus, it is now up to the teacher, when the classroom teacher comes to do what we call syllabus interpretation. They now decide the pace at which they are going to cover the content and when they are going to cover what. So ideally, what we are airing is out of just an estimation, where would an average school be in terms of syllabus coverage?
Okay.
Then we begin from there. But you can't hold every individual learner or teacher within the country to say this is what has been covered and therefore learners should be tested on it.
Okay.
Ideally, it just provides room for them to be occupied, but occupied in a way that what they are covering is part of the syllabus, and therefore it will be easier. For example, if I am a teacher, or I'm teaching in a particular school and I'm in contact with the learners, I can tell them, can we be able to access this history lesson, for example, so that when we shall go back, when the schools open, I will now be able to progress from where the radio or the TV had been able to cover, because all my learners, if they all had access to it, then we can now be able to say, can we review what was covered on TV or on radio?
Okay.
But ideally, you cannot be able to test the whole country based on what has been covered on radio and TV as provided by the KICD.
As concerns the institute that develops curriculum for this country, from where you stand, in which term of the school year are we right now, as we speak?
As we speak, ideally, schools are on holiday right now, and we are expecting that they will be expected to open as we begin this May. So probably in a week's time, we'll say we are entering into second term of the year. Yes.
Now that there has been extension of the holiday, and according to the CS, the holiday would be extended from the date that schools were essentially supposed to open. So how does that affect this? Also bearing in mind the first term had not come to completion.
Yes, the first term by 15th of March, when the learners closed, when the schools were closed, the learners were remaining with around 3 weeks to complete first term. And ideally, you will look at it like they were remaining with almost, traditionally the way schools have done things, they were remaining with probably 1 week of learning and another week of examination before they can be able to process the exams, and then they are given report cards to go home.
Yeah, okay.
But now, as it were, when we enter into second term, and because of the pandemic, the learners are supposed to stay home. Probably we may not know for how long they will stay home, because as you know, the situation, the way it is in the country, you cannot be able to predict for how long will they stay home. So ideally, what we are saying is that the radio and the TV lessons that we are going to continue covering will be on the basis that what they have been covering over the April holiday. Part of the content of first term has been covered. And then as we enter into second term, now we can begin to project lessons that we are saying these are second term lessons.
So if I get you right, Patrick, you're saying that from the 4th of May, KICD will begin rolling out the programs back on radio and TV.
The programs have been on and they are still on, and we shall continue.
Or even during the holiday?
Even during the holidays, they have been on.
Okay.
because our assumption is that learning is a continuous process. And the concepts that a learner is able to get even during the holidays will help them to even learn better when the holidays are over and when they go back to the classroom.
Okay.
Who's in charge of monitoring and evaluation in this particular case? Is it KICD or is it another department in the Ministry of Education? What I'm asking is, when you started rolling out your radio and TV programs from the week after the 15th of March, do you know how many people have actually been able to access these programs? How many have benefited from this?
No, we don't have the exact numbers of the people who have been able to benefit from this, except that we have been able to, we have been getting some feedback here and there from social media and so on. And we also had a survey that we were carrying out where we had a questionnaire that we sent to different groups to try and get us information, but we are yet to process this information so that we can have exact picture about the access in terms of numbers, how many have been able to access our programs.
So as we stand right now, we don't know whether people have even accessed these programs at all.
The idea of whether they have accessed at all, I think we know that there has been some level of access because we continue to get feedback. We continue to get feedback on our lines that we have opened, where parents are able to SMS, learners can be able to ask additional questions, and they make follow-ups about our programs and so on. So we are getting some level of feedback, except we cannot be able to authenticate and say this is the exact number of learners who are accessing the TV program. This is the exact number of learners who are listening to our radio programs.
And what would be the target, taking into a national perspective? What's the target of students in the national system that you would say you would want to reach through these audiovisual programs?
The target, ideally, we are targeting all learners in our primary schools, and we are targeting all the learners in our secondary schools.
Which is bringing me back to that question of whose mandate is it to have the monitoring and evaluation aspect of this project? Because those are the ones who would be able to know that this is our target. And through some evaluation tools, we've been able to establish that these are the people that we are currently reaching out to. These are the challenges. These are the successes.
The evaluation, the monitoring and evaluation would ideally fall in the hands of KICD and then the Ministry of Education, Quality Assurance and Standards. They are the ones normally who are supposed to be monitoring and evaluating the delivery of lessons in schools. Yes.
And as far as you know, you haven't seen any figures indicating that they have done that and they have been able to tabulate any statistics of some sort.
There are no figures so far, but there is a tool that was sent around to capture information, and it is just the processing that is not yet done.
Now, also, we were speaking to the head of the Kenya Private Schools Association yesterday.
Yes.
And he was saying, as far as they're concerned, the KICD is the one that even sets the syllabus.
Yes.
In terms of weeks, and says by this number of weeks, a student in this level should have reached this stage.
Yes.
Now, with the kind of lengthened interruption that we have seen, is KICD revising that and saying, okay, so we know that from the 15th of March, we haven't had proper learning. And so when we come on the 15th of June, this is where we expect this learner to be. Because before they closed, there's a place where a learner should have been by the 15th of June. They will not be there.
Ideally, we have not done that because what normally happens on the ground is also slightly different because you find schools exist in different environments, and there are different environmental factors that sometimes determine the curriculum delivery.
Yep.
So normally that is left to the classroom teacher to decide. The teacher can even reorganize and say, I'm going to begin with topic 2 instead of topic 1 in the curriculum.
Okay.
And also when there are certain interferences, like you have seen cases of what is happening in Elgeyo Marakwet, where floods come and interfere with the whole ecosystem of a school, then you may find there may be a serious delay in syllabus coverage in certain schools as opposed to others. So it becomes really difficult for you to say this is where all the schools should begin from, or this is where they all ought to have been, and this is where they are going to begin from in terms of syllabus coverage.
What about, we're looking at, having the discussion of disadvantaged students who may not have access to any kind of audio-visual gadget and would probably benefit, because if we're looking at a holistic number around the country of the national curriculum, and those who may not be able to benefit because of lack, have they been taken into consideration?
Ideally, we appreciate the fact that Kenya is diverse, and there are learners who are actually living in difficult conditions. There are learners, for example, in urban areas who are living in slums, who may have a very difficult situation in such that they are not able to access some of the ICT equipment that may be required. They may not be able to access the lessons. They may not be able to access the TV, as it were. So basically what we are saying is the government ought to do slightly more in terms of enabling these learners to be able to access. And this is where, for example, the earlier project that we had, the DLP project, would have come in handy if, for example, we had been able to allow all the learners to access or to have tablets, for example, then they would all be able to be reached easily. But what we are saying so far is that there is need, when it comes to investment in education, we need an approach where all stakeholders come in to try and play their roles as far as supporting the learners is concerned. Because as you know, when it comes to financing education in this country, different stakeholders play different roles. And that's why, for example, parents' associations in schools can be able to assess the situation of their school. They know the needs of the learners, and they begin to say, can we even be able to look for donors to support so that we can be able to equip our school in a way that if there are online lessons, the learners can be able to access. Because we have learners living in difficult conditions in this country.
All right.
Yeah.
Patrick Andika, we want to thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you so much.
Asante sana, and keep up the good work at the KICD.
Thank you. We'll continue doing our best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
25 minutes after 8 o'clock. This is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. The conversation continues all the time on our social media platforms where we are live streaming www.spicefm.co.ke, as well as Spice FM KE, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Join the conversation as well. You can call in 0719-012-600. Also, keep it right here because from 9 o'clock we'll be crossing over to Beijing, China, where we'll speak with Kenya's ambassador to China, Ms. Sarah Serem. We want to find out the plight of Kenyans in Guangdong, in Gwangju City in particular. Those whole, the whole story about racism and Kenyans being affected and people being kicked out of their homes, and those that want to come back home, and whether the government is assisting them to come back home. What's the status with all of that? Keep it right here. Good morning.
Looking at partly cloudy conditions across Nairobi today at 17 degrees. We're looking at around a shower at noon, 23 degrees the high and lows of 15. Likely to take us into the weekend with lots of rain. Nyeri at 17 degrees is cloudy conditions with highs of 23 and lows of 16. Rain is going to come down early there as well. It'll be rainy conditions in Nakuru in the afternoon. Partly cloudy right now though, highs of 23 and lows of 14. Eldoret is clear this morning, but it won't remain that way for long with highs of 21 and lows of 13. It's a rainy Kisumu morning, 20 degrees, highs of 26 and lows of 19, and the rain likely to go through till Monday. Malindi at 25 degrees is partly cloudy, highs of 25 and lows of 24. Thunderstorms expected throughout the weekend. In Mombasa at 25 degrees is mostly cloudy, thunderstorms expected there later as well, highs of 28 and lows of 25. Kampala in Uganda is cloudy this morning, showers expected early with highs of 24 and lows of 19. Cloudy conditions in Dar es Salaam will lead to rain later with highs of 29 and lows of 24. And in Johannesburg at 9 degrees, it's clear skies with a few clouds later, highs of 21 and lows of 7. And rounding it out in West Africa, in Lagos, 26 degrees. Clear skies this morning with highs of 33 and lows of 25.
28 minutes after 8 o'clock. This is the situation. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. In the room, we have Eric Latif, Nduoko, and what do we call you today?
CT Muga.
Okay. We just stick with that.
To kind of after Labor Day, we can also.
We can now.
We can look into it.
What labor-intensive name you can accord me?
We can accord you for the purposes of conversations.
Kabisa.
Yeah, back to the issue of what's happening at the ministry in this COVID-19, the fight against COVID-19. We've heard from KICD. KICD is saying, well, we've just been offering this thing as support, and it's even been ongoing during the holiday seaon. Even after next week, as far as KICD is concerned, new term maybe begins next week. They'll still continue offering the same programs.
It means they're ready.
It means they're ready, but also it points to some kind of confusion.
Yes,
this is where clarity needs to be we need to have some proper clarity. What exactly does Magoha want to happen next week? Does he want people to learn? Does he want people to tune into their TV and learn? Does he want people to sit at home and just enjoy?
Eric, benefit of doubt here, Magoha has to be told these things. It's not as though Magoha is the one who sits and says, tutafanya hii. No. There are people who are employed and trained to do precisely this.
Yes.
Magoha simply takes the lead as the minister. Now,
as the minister, what does Magoha want to see?
As the minister, it tells you that his ministry is in confusion.
There couldn't be a worse time for this kind of confusion, my friends. Unfortunately, there couldn't be a worse time for this. Because if we're looking at... Look, from the point of KICD, I want to understand that this is something they do anyway. This rollout of audiovisual learning happens anyway. Even when the school sessions are, they would have been doing it anyway. So as far as they're concerned, they're just carrying on with what they would have normally done, n'est-ce pas? They would have. It now doesn't mean that they're thinking about the term opening or term closing. It doesn't really feature for them because it's a rollout. It would have happened anyway. The problem here is that you have then teachers and associations and many people asking many questions. Okay, are we going to school or not? But I think in most cases, with the information that has come, that is what people will go by. Holiday has been extended for the next 30 days from the 4th of May. By virtue of the fact that COVID-19 is still here with us, schools have not opened. Cool?
We will be giving you an update every week, every fortnight, so that you know what is happening. And the outline we give you will comprise of blah, blah, blah. Is that difficult? The answer is no.
It's really not.
But it is the same thing we were discussing earlier on with regards to the Ministry of Health. They seem to believe it is normal. Let them ask. We will keep quiet. Time will lapse. Then when we think it's appropriate, we'll tell them something else.
Public service has been exposed by this COVID thing.
Like never before.
The issue of public service, because even when you look at that budgeting process, it's public service. There are officers somewhere who sit down and they're given a figure. Now, can you allocate money into 900 million or into a billion? Now, usiweke yote 1 billion. Maybe make it 9.8999. So it's not the complete 1 billion. And we don't look like we anticipated to spend an entire billion. Put figures into this. You create a budget that has not 1 billion shillings being spent. And then you go ahead and start appropriating and spending that money to a tune of 1.3 billion shillings. And some things that don't even make sense, you've shown that you've spent the entire amount that you had budgeted for. Like we've been told by the IPF CEO, budget is an intention. It doesn't mean that you have to spend what you've budgeted for.
Right.
If you had budgeted for eating chips every day, you don't have to eat chips every day.
Chips represents food.
Yes.
You know, there's a gentleman by the name of Paulo Coelho. Now, he is famed for having said something very poignant, as they would say. The worst part of a society manipulated by politics is to see the poor defending the rich who are responsible for their poverty.
Oh, yes. And this happens in our society all the time.
It happens. You will find the moment something is pointed out, our person, it's not your person. This person is in charge of a certain role. We're not talking about him. We're talking about what he's supposed to do and what he is not doing or she's not doing. That's what we're talking about. Where he comes from is quite irrelevant. If he's doing good, he is doing good. It doesn't matter where he comes from.
If he's doing poorly, he's doing poorly.
Yes, but then the moment money is mentioned, our person. This. You know, this one is one of those situations where they're going to find the very people who are defending them are not defending them. Because COVID is going to bite. We think it's biting now. It's going to bite even more.
But should we talk about the entrepreneurs, the mafia that's basically in control of such places? Because
Are you telling me the DCI don't know who they are?
I feel the hand of the mafia in this particular case.
Are you telling me that the anti-corruption don't know who they are? They know.
They do.
Why aren't they arresting them?
They do. There's absolutely no way you can tell me that a junior officer went and sat down and created a budget. Somebody created an expense item, and somebody whose mandate is to authorize the expenditure went and signed without knowing what they were doing. The person who's signing knows clearly what they're doing, and they're under the control of some mafia somewhere, or they are the mafia. The mafia is playing it. They're part of the mafia. The mafia is playing its game. And then now this thing is taken to Parliament. Questions arise. The minister who did not play a role in this probably is left with egg on their face.
And they're wondering, confused to death.
They're wondering, okay, so wait. Okay,
and that thing you guys told me, it was what again?
How do I even respond to this? Okay.
Where these things work and there isn't a murmur, we say everybody gets their money. This one, it looks like somebody didn't get
their money.
Somebody's disgruntled over something.
Or somebody is pissed off at some limelight going into the wrong pockets. This guy is shining too much. Clip their wings.
That Mutahi's job, other people feel they can do better, is without question. You don't get such a job and there are people sitting by happily thinking, oh, well, he's going to do No. They are going to fight you. Man, they're going to undermine you. And we told the minister this, my friend, these are seriously shark-infested waters. He will be fought.
And they know the game, man.
Oh, man, they know the game.
They've been playing it for very,
They've been there longer than any minister or PS.
Something happens, some information is not sent to the minister on time. Minister asks questions, action is taken, drastic action is taken. We have transferred somebody and that information is leaked to the media. It becomes a headline. Okay, so, all right. So, am I the one who dismissed that person? I only asked a question. Why didn't I get the results on time? Now, the further administrative action that's taken, and it's even leaked to the public that there's fighting here. Next, move that ball from this person, take it to Parliament.
So that too many questions are not asked. Yes. Transfer that person to a certain level somewhere very, very far away.
Next thing, we go to Parliament. Oh, you see how much even this ministry is spending. Before that, we had attempted with trying to show that 40 billion shillings had been spent in 40 days, right? But that was game number one. It fell flat. Okay, it didn't come out very well. 40 billion being spent in 40 days.
That one,
no. There were very many people saying, come on, this is not true. Game number two went into Kemri. That one has come. Now we are at the point of questioning budgets. And Mutahi Kagwe is basically just wondering, okay, so
what's going on here?
What on earth hit me here?
What is happening?
What kind of a cyclone have I found myself in?
What's coming next? Goja, you'll see the next thing that happens. And so we started hearing those rumors. Stuff that has arrived from Jack Ma is being sold behind the scenes. It's part of this game.
By a Jubilee functionary.
By a Jubilee functionary.
You know, all the crazies are going to come out on social media.
Yes. Mutahi is the one who's in charge. We don't care. Mutahi received
We have questions?
Mutahi received Jack Ma donations, and Mutahi is not in charge because now they're being sold.
And
To us.
they will allegations. Mutai has communication companies. Mutai has this.
Yes.
Mutai companies are getting,
Mutai
and you know,
owns a fleet
no
of
one
ambulances.
is going to question the veracity. They'll ask, if folks, is this actually true or
Yeah.
not? No.
He told us that he owns a PR company, and now we can
My
see there's a
friend,
communication budget of
everything
70
bad
million
is just
shillings.
going to be channel. It ends Mutai.
Mutai.
Channel, Mutai.
Mutahi.
And he may have absolutely no
No
clue.
What's going on?
But you know, in his case, it's even worse. You don't have a clue, it's terrible.
He may have a clue.
You have a clue, it is even worse.
It's worse.
Mama, you should have a clue.
He may have a clue. You see, Mutahi is just like he said in his Facebook, he's not a greenhorn. All right? He's somebody who's been in this game for quite a while. He's been a member of parliament. He's been in the Senate. He's been in cabinet. He's been a cabinet secretary before, minister before. He has been at this top level before. He has seen the way this game is played. So basically, he may have a clue of where this thing
That
is coming from.
statement is a good statement, but under these circumstances, the man has created a new box to place himself in. So you know, okay. So it's okay for us to blame you, isn't it? Because you've told us, you have told us, you know. That Ministry of Health is the same Ministry of Health where you had 5 billion that could not be explained.
Yep.
B. And that was not the entire story. This is the same ministry where you had people who are desk jockeys sitting in front of that desk and earning more per diems than it is possible in a year.
Yeah.
Same ministry. And that was just part of the story. It was never the full story. This is the same ministry where the MES mess emanated from. With the net result of the taxpayer having paid for mobile clinics that have rotted and are now not functionable. End of story. It's the same ministry that has bought equipment that the counties cannot use. Why? No one bothered to ask the county what they actually need so they could buy what they need. It is this same ministry that has been tangled in a fight as to who controls COVID money from day one.
Yes. From the very beginning.
And we see the end result was the head of a center being demoted. You know, let me just explain. When you hear of a Cambry head being a doctor, many of them are not medical doctors, they're PhD holders. It takes a very, very long time to get a PhD. And by the time you become director, you've been scientist, senior scientist. Man, you've risen up the
You've
ranks.
risen up the ranks.
It's not a year, it's not two. This person actually knows what they are doing.
Yeah.
And they know what's supposed to be done by
They,
their
but
juniors.
that's why they're there. They know.
They
and they're
did it.
respected among their peers. No one is asking, okay, we understand he was demoted. What was he demoted for?
What's the real reason?
All right. They were not producing. Did he have the equipment? Yes, he had the equipment. Did he have the reagents? Did he have the reagents? And did the reagents come on time? Is it something, all the while the man had made no mistake? What is it about this one mistake that warrants this man being demoted? So now you're going to have someone who is less competent than him. That's how it works out. Heading. How is that going to work out? And you know something? In the center, everybody knows who can do what. These centers are not at massive places.
Of course.
Everyone knows so and so. You know, they do the same thing. So you know who's an expert in this or not. You know. Now, you're causing discord in a center which didn't have discord. Because people will take sides. And all because
you want to play the game. Basically, I told you, City, at some point, let's blame this thing on COVID-19. This coronavirus, right? It started in Wuhan as a virus. It crossed over, went into Europe and America. It became a pandemic. When it landed at JKIA,
Bus.
it was not a virus. It was not a pandemic.
It was an opportunity.
Tenderpreneur.
And has continued.
Yes.
Do you remember that young man who works for Kenya Airways who reported and said, folks, you know, these planes are still coming in. So the same thing happened to him.
Yes.
The public made noise, he was reinstated. But the first time it was him, man, that guy was out of the window. So
He was a
tells
criminal.
you
He was-
his bosses knew what was happening. It was entrepreneuring. How dare he? You get the impression this guy at Cambry was told something, he said, I'm not doing it. No, it's not how it's done. You're what? We will see.
And then you're set up nicely. So the people who need you out, they don't do anything to you. They just set you up nicely. You don't deliver a result. A question will be asked, and that gives them ground.
And the minister is told something else.
The minister has given different information. This thing did not come. This man.
By someone totally different.
He's been difficult for so
From
long.
day one. In fact,
From
all
day
these
one.
problems you're hearing in Cambry, it is him.
One of the reasons why we've been doing these updates at 3 o'clock, you could have been doing them in the morning. But this guy, First, he sleeps late. He wakes up. He does not get to the office until 9. The minister is like, so why do we have that person there?
An appropriate question.
If you are giving me all this information, surely at this point we should not be having this person there. And that's it. He doesn't. He may not have said
more.
demote him, fire him. He just
No.
says, so why do we? Bas.
The director general is getting rid of you there and
Writing
then.
a letter very fast.
By the way, he can actually. Ideally, the matter should go to the board, Cambridge board. Doesn't. The board doesn't meet in a day to make such a decision. The boards don't function that way. You give board. There are people who work. Give them notice. But you know, Eric, the underbelly of our nation and of ourselves that is being shown, it's the wake-up call we've needed. Because this pretends that we're an all-Christian nation. We are a nation that calls itself Christian. But our activities are anything but Christian. All these people we are hearing of, these faceless, nameless people, I'm sure they belong to some church and they're really hallelujah going to heaven bound type.
Yes.
Religious
Clear.
attendance.
Yes.
Let me
Those who
tell
pray
you,
and cry at the same time.
We are not learning anything. After this COVID-19, we will have people who are very desperate. And the people who will have the means are the people who've cooled our money. They'll come to us as our saviors and we'll be praising them. In fact, we are going to elevate COVID billionaires to another stratospheric position in our society. There'll be the people with means, there'll be the people who can afford to employ you, there'll be the people who can afford to give you something to live.
These are the people who are working right now.
They will have the money.
To rob you.
They're tilling the ground right
As
now
Martha Karua
to
put it.
rob
Yes.
you
As Martha
and
Karua
then
put
come
it.
back and
To
give
give
you a
you
little
your
bit
money.
of that thing that they stole from you.
Oh, yes.
And they give it to you in pulses. So you believe that they're actually doing something for
We
you.
will praise
But
them.
essentially what they're doing is that they're putting you deeper and deeper into the ground.
Steal your chicken.
It's down there with you.
And then gives
Cooks
you the
it,
claws.
eats it.
And leaves the claws for you.
leaves
Your
you the
chicken.
claws. And you're like, oh, thank you.
For my chicken.
Oh, thank you very much. You're so considerate. It's 8:45. This is The Situation, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
C.T. Muga, paragon of wisdom. How would you advise C.S. Mutahi Kagwe at this point? What did you tell him?
What I tell Mutahi Kagwe is this. He's been, these 2 months, it's 2 months that he's been in that position. He has a very clear picture of what happens in his ministry. Now, he must create a distance between the truth and those who tell him what their version of the truth is. This one requires boldness. If it means frying people close to him, so be it, let them fry. If it means calling out people who've been lying to him, so be it, let him call out. You know, this isn't a matter of looking good and appearing to be popular. It's a matter of taking decisions that ensure that you are safeguarding the lives of the people whose lives have been entrusted to you. And it is the entire county, the entire country. No, I started with county specifically because it's in Nairobi. The entire country. The decisions he makes, the utterances he makes, affects the lives of all these 45 million Kenyans. That is the burden he has. So if he thinks he is going to take the sides of a few people who seem to talk nicely, then against these many millions, then in reality he has failed in his job. He has misunderstood what his intent, the purpose of his office was, and he has decided to play the game that people in his position have been playing for the longest time. James Macharia with his MES. Now we go to what is this ministry called? Transport. You go to KPA. That's James Macharia's ministry. All those messes fall under his feet. Do you hear of him making rectification? The answer is no. There are many ministers who do the same thing at the cost of the citizens who actually pay their salaries. This isn't really a difficult task. We have ministers who you can see are trying to do what they're supposed to do. You have state institutions who you can see are trying. Grand corruption is fighting back, and that's what we're probably seeing in the Ministry of Health. But man, he has to actually fight back. He has the powers to ensure, and this is where now the president helps the person he appointed. The president has the power to ensure that what Mutahi can't do, he can do by calling, state agencies to support this man in the fight against corruption. We're no longer fighting COVID here. We are fighting
This is corruption now.
Yes.
Basically, we've been diverted from fighting COVID.
COVID, we're not fighting.
In the middle of fighting this war called COVID,
We're fighting corruption.
we're dealing with some mutiny in our ranks.
Yes, and we're fighting grand corruption, fighting back. That's what we're doing right now. We are not fighting COVID.
So because today you are willing to really give people the benefit of the doubt. So let's give Mutahi Kagwe the benefit of the doubt. He's there. He has a clear mind and a clear conscience that he wants to do the right thing by us Kenyans.
Here's a window.
And now he's seeing this war coming at him.
Here's a window.
What?
This window will not last long. The benefit of doubt is appropriate because this man is new to this ministry. And when he was last a minister or a senator, these things were not happening on this scale. This is brand new, polished corruption, fine-tuned. He has a window to ensure that the things he has been telling us can be proven to be true because he will action and he will do. This thing of transferring sacking, no. You may sack, but tell us a solution that will ensure that these things do not happen. And if they do, they're so clandestine, they might as well not exist.
In the grand scale of things, the way things are running, he's going to be an isolated man.
So what?
He's gonna be
These
alone.
people aren't his friends.
They're not his friends anyway, so I think he's come to that
These are
realization.
not his friends.
I think he's come to that realization
can he
already
fight?
that he's...
Of course he can.
You can't fight a war by yourself.
He doesn't have to. I brought in the president into the discussion. The president has the power and the mandate to ensure that agencies that would help Mutahi do his job are actioned and spoken to personally as, folks, this is what you're going to do. We must win this war. Because COVID is not disease. COVID is economy. COVID is livelihood into the future. COVID is the future of this country, the children. COVID is everything right now. But when you're not dealing with this everything right now, you're dealing with the grand old corruption we've been dealing with, man, Mutahi needs to understand his docket was expanded. He has Matiang'i. Matiang'i will help him. He probably is. Let the country know what you're doing. Let the country know what you're fighting against. The country will support you. Let's start there. People will speak out. Believe me, they will say this is not right. They will say so-and-so is doing this. But so long as those in leadership are seen to sit back and more or less condone it by the action, everybody else will sit back and say, look, we'll pray about this one. We'll lay hands on this one. That is important. And not this praying of 2 minutes. It's important to fast and pray over this one here. But Mutahi needs support.
He's not getting it.
Mutahi
Even if
needs
you look
support.
at his cabinet colleagues, it's like all of them are sitting back and waiting for what does Mutahi want to say.
Mutahi
Let him
needs
say,
support.
right? When the CS for Education is waiting until 7 days to the opening of a new term to come up and upon instruction by the president to come up and say, all right, so another 30 days until Mutahi tells us what to do.
Mutahi needs support.
When you see the other CSs, CS for Devolution is coming to address issues now and saying, all right, so we need you guys to go and speak to the people in the counties at this point. And before that, we haven't seen the CS for Devolution appearing in these meetings. What are we saying?
We saw the Minister for Devolution appearing in the signing of this agreement with Nairobi County.
Yeah.
Yes. You're asking we didn't see him, we saw him.
No,
Look, there are
not in
ministers,
the fight against
there are
COVID.
CSs whom we have in this country who are essentially wallflowers. I'm not discussing those ones. Those ones are given a job, they're happy, they have a salary, they're waiting for COVID to end. Leave those ones. We are talking about people who appear by their actions, by their talk, to actually have the interest of this country at heart. You're talking about Matiang'i. You can accuse him, and you'll accuse him rightfully, but that man tries. You can see the effort he makes. You can see. It's not until you think, you can see. You have Magoha being taken around in circles by his employees. people who report to him. But he's been head of the biggest private public university we have. He's an intelligent man. He knows what to do. Get help from the sectors where you can get the help. We now have Mutai. He came in well. That didn't augur well for him, because the moment you come out that well, you don't get support. You get attacked.
Yep.
You get singled out.
You've entered into a room where people are trying to loot.
Yes.
And you're coming there and you're saying,
simply saying, guys, let's do the right thing.
You're head of security.
Whoa! Man, you will be fought until you won't even know what you're doing. Now, we understand and we know. In 2002, I saw something in this country that I never thought I would see in my lifetime. I saw an entire country willing to change. And then I saw an entire country willing to follow the rule of law. That's when you could walk in to get a passport, you would just get it. ID, all the things you thought you couldn't get, you are getting. A policeman stops you, salutes and asks you, sir, how are you doing? You want to faint in your car because you're not sure. You want to ask him, are you okay? But that's the way they're trained. I saw the change, so I know it's not something that I'm dreaming about. Most people are listening know it happened. I saw it happen. And it continued. And then the inverse began to happen.
We came back to factory settings.
We went beyond factory settings.
There's absolutely no way you can move that far and not be pulled back.
You will be pulled back, because you now then had a situation where every effort you make, if it isn't for ensuring that somebody fills their pocket with money, it will not be okay. You know the examples I was giving you about donations and so forth? You know, you want to cry. You know, there are parts of this country that are so impoverished, so, I'm using the correct word, so backward, that they really need to be given a jolt to be able to start moving and to even enter the 20th century, not even 21st. And then someone tries to do something positive and they're being fought. So you wonder, so what do you people want exactly? You want people to continuously be poor so that you can rule poor people. That you don't want that situation, because when poor people feel empowered, out of years of disempowerment, you will not want to see what they're going to do. They have no in-between to relate to. Them, they were poor, and now they feel there's nothing more. It's not a good situation. And there are people who are taking us in that direction speedily.
Very fast. Very fast. And it's their job. They've made it their job.
You know, you've heard of estates being attacked by thugs, and the numbers are increasing. It's not as though the Thugs Association of Kenya sat somewhere and said, guys, let's start attacking people. They didn't. They look at what they need to do, how they need to do it, and they figure this is the best way to do it. So the lives of several basic Kenyans are actually being afforded. And you think it's in suburbs, middle class. No! The low-rent areas are suffering the most. People being beaten up, people being robbed. Because there are many young people, and it's young. An older person isn't going to go around running around chasing people to strangle them. Because they have no means. So they're turning to this. These processes start slowly, but they're very sure if they're not checked in time.
I think Mutahi Kagwe needs to turn away from looking inwards for support. He's not going to get it in the ministry. He ought to get it from the public.
There's absolutely no support he will get from the ministry at this point.
He ought to get it from the public. I think from the first thing that he needs to do is appear to be working. So instead of talking, because that's
let him just work. We will see.
He needs, yes, and we need to see him working. We need to see him going to these places. We need to see him going to inspect. Let him visit Kemri. Why hasn't Mutahi Kagwe visited Kemri? Why hasn't Mutahi Kagwe visited the isolation centers?
Quarantine centers.
Right?
Yes.
Why hasn't he visited the quarantine centers?
We're not asking you to leave the county. Just
go
start
to
here.
Kitui and see, all right, so this is what
now
you guys
leave
are
the
doing.
county.
All right,
Yes.
let's go. Let's go to other places. Do the next press release or press announcement or
in some other part of the
in
country.
another part of the country and say, this is where we are. In fact, I have come to see what...
Go to Wajir.
Wajir
Go
is
to
doing.
Turkana,
We have new
go to
cases that are
Pokot.
coming up in Wajir. We have now one case in Wajir. We have cases in neighboring county. And I came to discuss with the governor what exactly we can work together to ensure that these cases are not rising in Marsabit, in Mandera rather, and Wajir. When you don't see Mutahi Kagwe going around, we are thinking, he's just in the office. He's working with everybody else. The thugs are out in the field. The thugs are out in the field, and they're the ones who are working and trying to figure out what to do and how to steal
And
money
they don't
from
sleep.
us. And they do not sleep. And they've come up with ways in which they are going to ensure that we are going to spend this money and it'll end up in their own pockets.
Willy-nilly.
Willy-nilly. This is where the willy-nilly comes
This is
in.
when willy-nilly comes in.
Willy-nilly comes straight into this. We're going to the top of the hour shortly. you'll give us today's proverb. But also, let me just remind everybody that from 9 o'clock, we'll be speaking with Kenya's ambassador in China, Sarah Serem. The issues in China, we discussed this here at length.
We did.
Kenyans and other Africans who have found themselves in the wrong side of the situation in Gwangju, being kicked out, being denied entry and access to public places. What exactly is happening? The government has decided, all right, so we want to help any Kenyan who's willing to come back home to come back home. Mm-hmm. There's a flight that's leaving the country on the 7th. That's a Kenya Airways flight going to Gwangju, and it'll come back, and there are some empty seats that they've allocated. The embassy has been told by Kenya Airways, we have this number of seats. Please reach out to the community of Kenyans in China. Ask them, anybody who's willing to board this flight and come back home, this is how much you are charging per flight, and this is what we are required to do. So the embassy has been coordinating this. So we want to hear from Sarah Serem, how many Kenyans have registered with the embassy and said that they are willing to be brought back home. How much are they paying? What is the embassy doing to help them? And what is the embassy doing to help those that will be left behind? All right? Discussing that shortly. Meanwhile, can we shower willy-nilly with cold water?
Yes, one who bathes with willingly, not willingly,
Yeah, you see now.
willingly with cold water doesn't feel the cold.
Again, this is from which country?
This
which
it's
community?
in Tanzania. The people are called the FIBA.
Mm-hmm.
They are far southwest Tanzania. And they're only around 200,000 people. It's a saying from that part of the world. Remember, you're talking about a part of the world, yes, they may have fuel, but that fuel is used for more important things like cooking. What already cleans you, whether it's warm or not, it'll clean you. And if you get to it, use it, you'd be amazed at how wonderful that cold water feels on your skin. Meaning this, even if you have a situation where people consider you have a problem, you only need to look squarely into the face of that problem instead of running away from it, and you will understand it for what it is. I'm not using the word getting used to it, because you don't need to get used to it. You just need to understand. When you understand it, it will not bother you as much as if you try to run away from it all the time. And you tackle it by using the resources you have available. Stop looking for other resources that may not be available. Use the resources that you have available and which you do the very thing you want it to do.
Okay. Thank you very much. That is today's proverb. It's coming up to 9 o'clock. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. Remember, you can join our conversation on 0719-012-600. That's 0719-012-600. Follow the conversation on our social media handles. We're on Instagram, SpiceFMKE. We are on Twitter, @SpiceFMKE. Facebook, SpiceFMKE. We're live streaming the show as well on YouTube, SpiceFMKE, and www.spicefm.co.ke. Happy Labor Day.
There seems to be a problem right around State House. Avoid the highway into town from State House. Possible riots building up and heavy police presence there this morning. We're not really sure the reason why, but matatus trying to ply that route have been kicked out at that area. So we're trying to find out what the reason is. But like I said, heavy police presence at the highway into town from State House Avenue. We'll find out the details of that in a minute. Okay. Around the city, though, it looks pretty good. The Mathare River Bridge on Outer Ring seems to be wanting to burst its banks. So that means it's affecting a lot of traffic on that side. People are moving a little bit slower this morning, those that are out on the road. So you want to approach with caution if you're in that area. And I'm sure that somebody, I would like to say that somebody would do something about that soon enough, but we're sending out that alert now for you to be careful. Anything else that pops up, do let us know. SpiceFMKE, that's how you can reach us on Twitter. It's a quiet morning as concerns traffic, a few hot spots here and there, but we'll let you know once we see it, and you let us know once you do.
This is the Situation Room the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth,
2.5
Kenyan by
minutes
choice.
past
Communication.
9 a.m. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, broadcasting on Spice FM. We are on 94.4 in Nairobi, 87.9 in Mombasa, 102.5 in Kisumu, Nakuru, 96.0, Eldoret, 96.7, 90.9 in Nyeri, 97.7 in Malindi. We live stream this show every morning. This is the first and only radio station that has a 24-hour audio-visual streaming of its programs. Well, we have cameras in the studio, so you can watch the show on Spice FM KE YouTube. If you go to Facebook, you'll find us on Spice FM KE. Twitter, we're also live streaming Spice FM KE. We're also live streaming on our website, www.spicefm.co.ke. Now, the issue of Kenyans in China. The Kenyan population in China is quite significant. We don't know how many. We'll be asking the ambassador shortly. We also know that there are many Kenyans a number of Kenyans who claim that they were affected by the recent spate of what they were calling, what are they calling it? Racism. Some racism and attacks on racism in Gwangju specifically. We want to know exactly what happened. And then there are a number of Kenyans who've expressed their willingness to come back home by whatever means necessary. Kenya Airways is going to be flying a flight out of Nairobi to Gwangju next week, and it'll be bringing some people back with some goods as well, but also bringing some people back into the country. We want to find out exactly what is the status on ground. Joining us now is Kenya's ambassador to China, Madam Sarah Serem. Good morning, Your Excellency.
Good morning, Kenya, and how are you? It's good afternoon here in Beijing.
Right.
We
Good
are
afternoon,
at
Your
4 o'clock
Excellency.
in the afternoon. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for speaking to us in the Situation Room.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate this too.
Now, Madam Ambassador, we know about the cases of the allegations of racism. You are the person on the ground, and you, of course, are in touch with the Kenyans. You're in touch with the Chinese government. What is the situation?
Absolutely. I think a lot did the rounds, John, during this fight for the coronavirus. And I will tell you, what we witnessed in Guangzhou particularly was the after effects of COVID-19 in China. You notice that the virus started here, but it reached a point where China flattened the curve. So they emerged the threat of recurrence of infections from people who are flying in, talking of imported cases.
Yep.
So they were forced to take some stringent measures, especially in Guangzhou, where this is an inlet because most flights fly through Guangzhou. Infections were reported among some Africans.
Mm-hmm.
The unfortunate hit that we witnessed, and what caused actually the standoff that was witnessed, was some kind of an indiscipline or lack of following the measures that were put in place by the Chinese authorities. And finding out that even as they checked with some of those that are living in Guangzhou, that most of them were living in large numbers, yet they are supposed to be isolated for quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
So what the Chinese authority was having what they now called mandated quarantine. And literally forced people, and majority of these having been other nationals and particularly Africans, because they are the ones who are living in numbers in their homes, forced them to move out of their houses so that they can quarantine in isolated government institutions. Of course, this is what caused the protestations, and most of the Africans that were pushed out send this press call saying we've been targeted and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We had a number of meetings with the Chinese government, and basically to tell them to handle these Africans in a humane way. We do understand the reasons and the measures being taken is for their protection as well, because we will appreciate, John, that in spite of the fact that we had an epic center in Wuhan with our own citizens where none of them was ever affected or infected.
Yeah.
And these measures apparently has really protected and insulated our own nationals. So I think as much as, yes, there may have been a standoff, I think there is some part that we also played. And this is the impact where people are not following the measures required to protect themselves. The beauty of it is they were taken out. They were quarantined in hotels, in government, at their government expense.
Mm-hmm.
I had quite a number of them call me and said, actually, we are on holiday because we are eating food that we're not paying for. We're sleeping in hotel rooms that we're not paying for. And for the 14 or less days that they were in, apparently things cooled down and they were well brought back after the quarantine period. So things more or less normalized.
So are they back to living in large numbers the way they were living before? After the quarantine, they came back still to live in crowded apartments?
Yes, some are. Others apparently had to look for other accommodations.
Okay.
There are those that came back. I had quite a few Kenyans who said, you know something, we didn't even have rent pay. And for that reason, I talked to the government, and do you know, we have some Kenyans living in hotels at the expense of the government.
Of which government?
Of which government?
It is absolutely, generous. And I was like, this is one of the best things that was after the effect of the negotiations that we went into to do with the Chinese government.
Yeah.
And they provided facilities for them. Some government literally, because the provinces are autonomous, had to talk to the landlords not to harass the Africans. After we stepped in to negotiate with the government and the provinces, as it were, because this was in Kwanjo, and we had the headquarters, the national government, moving into Kwanjo to actually put and cool the temperatures that were raised at the time.
Madam Ambassador, so how many Kenyans were directly affected by this?
Those that were in Kwanjo, by the way, were under 50. Believe me, we had a lot of clips doing the round. I personally had to call, can I have one single Kenyan that is in the street? There was not one of them. Can I have those that have slept outside the hotels or accommodation? There was not one Kenyan. Unfortunately, we adopted other people's problems because I came to learn that most of those who are in the rounds were from other nationals. And you probably, your guess will be right, that those most indisciplined are the ones who probably were either fighting, engaging the authority, and literally all those calmed down because I know some of those African states actually had to apologize to the authority because they were the cause of the problem. But I want to tell Kenyans, none of the Kenyans were ever found sleeping in the streets. None of them were found mishandled by the Chinese. We addressed them. We picked each of those that had problems and we sorted them out.
So can we say then, Madam Ambassador, that the reports that were seen on this side, whether it was across media or reports that were sent from Kenyans to other Kenyans, they were false?
Absolutely. We had meetings with other ambassadors. And may I tell you, the same clips that were circulating in Kenya were also circulating in other African states. So when we met and we are comparing notes, it's like, I've also received this from my country. So it was not like exclusively sent to Kenyans. They were also doing the rounds in other states. And everybody seemed to have owned it for whatever purpose. So I would say, I would speak for Kenya. That was not Kenyan clip. And I would, bear me witness that if you came to find out, I tried to engage all those that I knew in Kwanjo. Do you have any problem? Are there people that are sleeping in the street? Not one Kenyan had a problem.
All right, so Madam Ambassador, when then we heard from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Nairobi, when we heard from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs that there was then a plan to evacuate Kenyans who may have been stranded in Guangzhou or in China, then What was that about in this case, when there was actually the option, or rather no option for payment, whereby you had to pay for your own ticket if you were stranded? Are we talking about two totally different scenarios here?
No, they are not totally different scenarios. I am sure the virus has affected all of us, including Kenya. I am sure there are people in Kenya now who cannot pay rent because some of their income streams have been affected. Majority of the Kenyans that we have here, particularly those who are not with visas, were doing manual jobs, and they are the ones who found themselves not having any income. So for that reason, where are you better off if some of these income streams, and it is not exclusively a China thing, because all across we have seen people losing jobs, we have seen shops closing, we have seen business coming down. This also affected China, and most of our Kenyans here were doing some of those manual jobs. Majority of them were doing like teaching, schools were closed, they couldn't get paid. I would tell you the regular teachers that are professionally recruited here are on their jobs and comfortable, and none of them want to relocate. Majority of those who would want to relocate, yes, their jobs are no longer there.
Okay.
They don't see the sustainability of them staying here without those streams of jobs. Number two, they were working without valid visas. At those points, yes, they were able to hide. China, you can't hide now. Everybody that doesn't have a visa is known. What is the reason of that? Because for you to get services, you must register yourself, because they have given what they call a Q card. The Q card allows you to do all transactions within China, including accommodation. Even for my staff here, I can't get into anybody's house unless I have an access. So if you don't have access, you have to declare yourself. And so there was need for them to declare. And with that declaration, obviously it means that then you are known that you have been doing and undertaking a job that is not regular. So what is the option? It's better to be home.
All right.
Because at home, you don't have to access. You can have food and the accommodation from your family, and this is the team that we are facilitating.
Okay, so
of course, there are those who have papers, but they would want to go home as well.
Right. If it's coming off of that premise, where there were a number of people then who, because of a loss of a job, then could no longer remain in China, then they were asked, however, then to pay for themselves. If what the state was doing essentially was creating a vessel that they would travel by, however, they had to pay for it. But we hear you saying that it is people who couldn't afford a living anymore in China because of a job loss or whatever. But then the matter of contention became they couldn't pay for themselves to get on this plane. So where then would the connect come there if these people are needing to be evacuated because they can't afford their life anymore? But then they're being asked to pay for their way to come back home. Where would the rationale in that be?
The rationale is here. We are faced with a global pandemic, and I think this is something you will need to ask the headquarters. We are faced with a global pandemic. I can't run away because I'm part of the leadership of Kenya. And our Kenyans are spread through almost all nations of the world. I think you know that by now. We're talking about millions of people stranded there. The people who are becoming homeless. I know in U.S., a number of those who are doing certain jobs that they are unable to do it now. They're being locked down. They don't have food. We have people in India. I keep talking to some of these ambassadors, and we are all facing the same problem. This is not exclusively China. This is a global problem. I know the other day UK evacuated, or rather facilitated their people. They had to pay, because which country, as we are talking now, a nation certainly has to protect its citizens, but within reasonable and practical means. If you're talking about evacuating millions of people across the world, is that feasible? Is that possible? So there are moments that we take responsibility as individuals. Families have to take responsibilities. If I am in a crisis today, and all those that are probably wherever they are for now, surely the family should also come in and say we can step in and support. I have had many leaders talk of evacuate our people back from China. They should take responsibility as well and facilitate their coming back home.
Your Excellency, are you saying that families in Kenya are not willing or are not able to take responsibilities for ferrying their loved ones back into the country?
No. I was responding to one question. What is the responsibility and the role of the government? I'm saying this is a collective responsibility. We all have to take responsibility and ensure that our citizens are safe. And for me, I don't have a problem for now. We have released the advice to our Kenyans around here. And we have registration of those who are willing to come home. Those are the ones we are facilitating at this point in time.
You know, I personally don't see what the problem is, because a lot of the times we have Harambes for people to get hospitalization abroad. When they go to learn or when they go abroad again, we have this social system where we do Harambes. When people are stuck in wherever they've gone to in the past, we have seen situations where Harambes are called for. This, to me, is a situation that requires a Harambe. So, do we have a list of people whose families have said they're unable? Are they those who are able? Are they those who need help? Where are we? Because remember, we've been collecting some funds specifically for COVID. These funds, some of it can be diverted for bringing people back home.
So you will be able to, will the fund be able to bring the millions across the world?
We don't know.
We don't know. Some people don't want to come back. Not everybody wants to come back to Kenya.
Even here in China. You know what? I have people in China who say, we're not going. I mean, I have educated my children being here in China. I have built my small house being in China. I would still want to do the little jobs I have been able to do. Facilitate me to do that. And the other thing is, China is coming up. If there is a place you want to run to now, it's China. So with this coming up and the opportunity for the economy opening up and schools opening up, I believe this is probably the better place to be in. It's just patience and a matter of time. I think the China thing was taken out of context.
You know, I'm in agreement with you, Your Excellency, because if someone is volunteering to come back and for obvious reasons, I mean, this isn't the time for someone to simply climb onto the gravy train. You have people who, you know the status of the people in Kenya or the rest of the world. There are many Kenyans who relocated abroad and have no wish to come back unless they're coming to visit.
Yep.
It's those who are in dire need. The papers were wrong. Their being in that particular country is problematic.
No longer tenable.
And they can't actually stay there. Now, those are the ones you want to find out in which category do they fall into and how do you help them come back? Because they're actually not even legally supposed to be in China.
Mr. Serem, actually, let's talk about numbers now. How many Kenyans have applied to join this flight to come back home?
183.
183.
Out of 183, 125 have no visas.
125 are out of status.
Out of status.
Okay, and how many have said that how many have paid so far for their flights?
We have 60 who have put in, registered, or rather confirmed their flight.
And confirm, we are talking about confirm is paid.
Yes, we have a number that have paid. You know, those ones that have already put tentative bookings?
Yeah.
I have about 60 as of now.
Okay.
We have passed communication to them. So and by the way, we have a number also that are in police custody. And some of these in police custody, the government of China would probably be paying for them as deportation because they were going to deport them anyway.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have a category that has applied specifically and said, I'm willing to go back home, but I do not have means or I haven't been able to raise enough money to book this flight?
The truth of the matter, is that John?
It's Eric.
If today I floated something to that effect, because I can only ask if I will go back with, I have a solution for you.
Okay.
Because who will not want a free ticket?
Well.
So it will be very difficult at this point to know, are you not able to go because you don't have the fare? Or you actually didn't mean to go. I have a number. We went back into calling the numbers, so the 183 that have registered,
Mm-hmm.
some say, actually, I had not thought through the whole process. I'm still thinking I need to stay.
So
So we're still even working within the 183 whether they really want to go, or they are looking at opportunities that are rising now because schools are opening and stuff like that.
So some are changing their mind. And the question I'm asking, Madam Ambassador, is: do you have have you come up with a mechanism as the embassy and as the government of Kenya to establish and find out those that are in dire need, those are will be genuine cases that need support?
Okay, Eric.
Yes.
They are registering now. They gave us their names. We gave the figure of $750 as the fee for the ticket, and 183 registered. The assumption here was for you to have seen the date of the flight. You have also seen the amount that is needed as the fare.
Mm-hmm.
Then it means, for all purposes, you are able to pay that. So I suppose maybe by something we are reviewing again on Monday. We've been sitting on this thing over and over. By Monday we'll review to check.
Do you have conditions that they must meet and by a certain timeline in order to benefit from this offer?
Pardon?
Do you have conditions that they must abide by in order to benefit from this offer that the government has made?
One condition is the government has said we have secured KQ. It's coming by this date. I guess that's a date that we will still negotiate, because for us, our position is we would rather the flight comes when we are ready.
Yeah.
Yes?
Mm-hmm.
And being ready means we have already paid up this certain number, because KQ can't also come to just take 60 people. This is a commercial flight. And it can only come when we have reached certain threshold. So once we do that, Monday is a date we are reviewing so that we tell whether we can meet the 8th or we need an extension of the time. We would have also reached out to the Kenyans to find out whether they're able to pay or not. If that is the situation, then it means the flight may not even come. But as of now, we're still working on account of yes, they registered with the knowledge of the date and the fees.
Interesting case scenario, which other people call worst case scenario. People keep dilly-dallying. They don't want to come. They don't know whether they should come. At what point will the government tell them, okay, now you're on your own?
This is the catch. This is the catch. 183 registered. 125, as I said, did not have the visa.
Yep.
Chinese government cannot release them without issuing an exit visa.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had to communicate with the Chinese government. They have said they will lessen the stringent measures they put, because normally you will have to pay a penalty, depending on how long you have stayed without a visa. They have said they will give, they will release them without that penalty.
Okay.
Secondly, they would normally lock them in to do some investigation. Have you been here legally? Have you been doing funny businesses, or you have been on clean record since that the papers are gone? That they have said they will also lessen that. So if in the event these people don't go, the obvious thing is the Chinese will not allow them to stay in longer. And so the law will definitely have to apply.
Wow.
And this is some of the things they are passing to the Kenyans. Because you can't say you want to go, your visa is not valid, and then again you withdraw from it. The law will
catch up with you.
It's cost. Absolutely.
We have seen some campaigns that have been started online, even here in Kenya, for people trying to come up with ways of supporting those who may need support to book these flights. Are you aware whether the Kenyan community in China is doing the same to try and identify maybe people who are greatly in need, and maybe just set aside a fund, a harambe, a local harambe by Kenyans in China to support some of their brethren to come back home?
I'm not aware of that. At least that has not come to us, because those are now Kenyan spirit moving, like we have always done, the support.
Yeah.
That's actually what I was throwing back to the Kenyans. If you are able to help, that will be good. And I would say, let's not even limit to China. Let's also help across, because there are dire cases across.
Okay, Madam Ambassador, just looking at, here, you talked about the 183 registered, 125 for those who don't have visas. Is it common practice, or has there been a lapse where, under the ambassadorship, or under the where you have the consular section, that there should be a regular registration of any Kenyans who come into the country, so that you have that tally, you know who is where doing what? Is that something that should be practiced, or is it something that needs to be beefed up?
I'll tell you, COVID-19 has given us a lot of lessons. You would agree with me, it is extremely difficult to monitor, to know who has landed, who has not landed, because that connection does not come to us. The only people that we have record of and whom we update all the time are the students, because these ones come under the scholarship of the government and they are regularly updated with us. But there are many, and you can almost tell that those who actually don't have papers will not even want to be known by the authorities, including the Kenya government. So they would be in here, but even as we are talking now, we don't know whether all of them have actually been brought out. But I know with COVID, it's not possible to hide now. We'll be able to reach out. We had to do a registration just to get to know, because when we are hearing all these complaints, we don't know them. We didn't know where they are because they have never registered with us. So it becomes very difficult to reach out if you don't know where they are. But there is definitely need for every Kenyan, any national, as you land in a new foreign land, that the first thing you do is to register with the embassy. That's the only way we would know that.
As per your now, this new updated database, how many Kenyans are in China?
We have, I think, close to about 3,000. The ones we have so far registered are the students and the few that came in, who number about 1,500.
Okay.
But we know that there could be more than that.
And this is strewn across the country?
That's across the provinces of China.
Now you're
but mainly concentrated, talk of Guangzhou, Shanghai, Beijing, and one or two commercial centers.
Okay. And the Kenyans who had been hard hit by this COVID-19, who were locked up in Wuhan, locked in basically by the quarantine and the conditions, how are they faring? We know about two that were expectant, and we even spoke to them, and they were telling us about the kind of conditions that they're living in. How are they faring? And they were even telling us that you are speaking to them on a regular basis, so I'm sure you're still in touch with them.
Oh, may I tell you the good news? I have been speaking to them on a regular basis, and yesterday we had the baby. We have a baby girl. I don't know the name yet.
Oh, yay.
I would have loved to be there, but it came too soon, because I wanted to be there when this baby is being delivered. But we again facilitated, and these are some of the people you need to talk to, because I have been in touch with all of them.
Yep.
And they have Kevin and the wife Julia have a new baby girl.
That's very good.
The other one is okay too. I've been reaching out to her. We have a few families. I reach out. I have talked to as many of them. I reached out to the leader of the students and to as many as I'm able to reach out. So we really are in conversation. I know you had said you didn't want to have a number of some of those so that you can reach out to. I will be able to provide them to you.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
That would be great. Now tell us about the conditions now in China.
Wuhan are okay. It opened up, but even with the opening up, they did not release the foreign nationals. The reason was we are having Chinese coming in, and we don't know their status until probably after like 2 or 3 weeks. So like now, they are slowly coming out, and we are able to probably move from one province to another. Even Beijing here was on a high risk, but that was opened the other night. We are now green. We are able to move, but of course with a lot of caution.
You've experienced that in that country. You're a government official. What would you like to see? What would you wish was borrowed in terms of the kind of interventions that the Chinese government has put in place to combat COVID-19? What would you wish to see if you were to come back in Kenya and you were to advise the government?
Discipline. Discipline. The Chinese don't argue. They are told don't do this, they will not do it. Protect yourself and be each other's keepers, they will do it. The homes where our people live, the people taking charge are the members of the society within that locality. They will check the temperatures. They will, as you go in, as you go out, they will monitor who has come in. They will take record of everybody. So literally, here, there is a lot of patriotism that people follow because the government has spoken. So if there is anything that needs to be done, I think it's to bring the value system to make our people more disciplined so that they can follow the order. This is for the benefit of themselves and for the benefit of those around them. China has the highest population, but if you look at the deaths now compared to what is happening around the world, you would say when you put as a ratio of the population, they had the least.
Yeah.
What was the reason? People obeyed the law. They may have looked at draconian laws, but it worked. It was necessary for that to happen for the benefit of humanity so that they can maintain, the health required. And that's happening even now. When I have ambassadors who are away, they came in, they had to go on forced quarantine in hotels, paid up.
At whose cost?
And you will follow that. There is no immunity when it comes to the laws around here. Yeah, I think that's what we need to really pick. Follow up guidelines, the measures, and remain disciplined. Kenyans, I think we politicize everything. We sensationalize everything. When we're managing here, you are busy taking up people's problems. I saw the scripts going around, and I'm like, I wish the Kenyans could just come and land here and see what's happening on the ground.
We've often analyzed this, Madam Ambassador, if I can ask you quickly, as you're still on this point. We've analyzed this and we've said that it's clear to us that if you're looking at China, and it's fantastic because this is where you are, that it was a little easier for the people of China to listen to their government because things that they had asked them to do previously in the past or things that they had promised them to do as a government who want to develop their country, they never reneged on any promises. They never reneged on development initiatives or development agenda. So by the time a government who are taking care of its people is asking them to do a certain thing, it was not you didn't think twice.
You have no doubt
about it. You had no doubt in your mind that they knew what they were doing. And suffice to say that on this end of the other side of the pond, it is a bit difficult for Kenyans to fall in line the way Chinese did. As an example.
Yeah, I think we all have a responsibility. We cannot be looking at one person to run and to manage and to give solutions. We have to be part of the solution. If you are waiting for somebody to come and tell you in your house now, stay indoors so that you can be safe, I think that's extremely unfortunate. We politicize everything. We sensationalize everything, even that which will not bring food on my table.
Yeah.
So I think it's more the society taking responsibility and accountability. We cannot run away from this. It's important that we remain sober, even in moments like this. Because something like the virus, why would we politicize a virus? And it is a reality. People are dying from it.
Yeah.
Just sit back, weigh out, and follow instructions, period. I think that's what I would go for. I know what it has done to me. I stayed here. I came in when the virus was just starting up. Everybody was telling me, where are you going? I mean, people are running away from China and you're heading there. But I have seen what it means to remain disciplined and sober. So I think for Kenyans, that's what we need to do.
Ambassador Sarah Serem, we want to thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you.
And we wish you all the best. Say hello to the rest of the embassy staff and the Kenyans that you speak to there.
Thank you.
Thank you very
and
much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And say hello to Kenyans as well.
Kenyan, say hello to you.
Say hello to you, and thank you for your valuable time, Your Excellency.
24 minutes to 10 o'clock. This is the situation. That's the look at weather and traffic.
Mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi. Now 19 degrees, is warming up just a little bit. However, the rain still promises to come down later, highs of 23 and lows of 15. It's cloudy conditions in Nyeri at 18 degrees, cloudy. We're likely to see rain later with highs of 23 and lows of 16. Nakuru at 18 degrees is mostly cloudy. We'll see highs of 23 and lows of 14. Eldoret, clear skies this morning at 14 degrees, highs of 21 and lows of 13 with a promise of rain later on. In Kisumu, it's raining still at 22 degrees, mostly cloudy conditions in the afternoon with rain coming back. And like we said, until Monday, highs of 26 and lows of 20. In Malindi at 25 degrees, it's raining now, as was the promise, highs of 29 and lows of 26 with thunderstorms in the afternoon. In Mombasa at 25 degrees, it's mostly cloudy. Highs of 28 and lows of 25. The rain will come down for most parts of the afternoon. In Kampala, it is cloudy conditions at 22 degrees. Highs of 24 and lows of 19. In Dar es Salaam, cloudy conditions at 27 degrees. The rain will come down later. Highs of 29 and lows of 24. Johannesburg is clear skies this morning. Mostly sunny conditions all through at 14 degrees. Highs of 21 and lows of 7. And finally, for the weekend in Lagos, 27 degrees, partly cloudy, highs of 33 and lows of 26.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Okay, still same situations that we saw previously. We don't have much traffic in the city today. Except this issue that we have right around State House, where there's a police standoff, police and matatus. Please be very careful approaching the area because we don't know the cause of it or how soon it's likely to end. Apart from that, everything else looks all right. We do have matatus, though, carrying excess on the Eastern Bypass. Guys, not allowed. And you don't enter into a matatu where you know it's already full. Spice of MKE, that's where you could have let us know what's going on. We don't seem to have a lot of traffic today. It's likely not to be the case. All right, that's it for now.
Happy Labor Day. This is the situation. It's going to be this conversation. Just before we went to the break, we were speaking with Kenya's ambassador to China, Madam Sarah Serem. She's telling us the status there. There are 183 Kenyans who initially took the call and they registered that they were willing to take the flight coming from Nairobi to Gwangju and back so they can be brought back to the country Out of the 183, 125 do not have valid visas. They have been in China, their visas expired, they've been living undercover for a while. Now, COVID-19 has basically just exposed them. During this whole the fiasco about people being kicked out of their apartments, she's tried to explain what exactly was happening during that time. Anyway, the long story short is 183 have registered, 60 have confirmed that they are willing and able to come back home. We still do not know how many are able to pay for their flight, because you're supposed to pay for that flight. $750 is the price of that, is the cost of that flight. Now, there are some Kenyans who are in China and in Kenya who are trying to organize support for those who are willing to come back home. Because of whatever reason or the other, they don't have money, but they want to come home. They won't be able to afford this flight. How can we do this harambe? Because even Sarah Serem said, look, find ways, talk to your friends, talk to your relatives, organize a harambe, find a way in which you can get this flight paid for. Some Kenyans are doing that. One of them is called Jothige, and he's organizing, together with a group, they're organizing something they're calling the Tuma Fair Initiative. And the Tuma Fair Initiative is basically collecting funds that are going to be able to support the Kenyans who are in Guangzhou or in China, who are willing to be brought back home. He's joining us now on air. Jothige, good morning.
Good morning to you.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you.
Joe, you are in Kenya right now, but you also live and work in China.
Not really live and work in China. Let me put perspective to who I am.
Yes.
My name is Jyoti Ge. I am a PhD student in Jiangsu University, Jiangsu Province. I'm in my last semester now. I was scheduled to graduate this June. Yes. So I'm also part of the community leadership in China, where we have a WeChat platform similar to WhatsApp. When people come to China, we make sure that they join the platform so that they can be informed on, how to remain connected to the Kenyan community and how to, get assistance in the event that they do need assistance. Yes.
So tell us about the Tuma Fair Initiative.
All right. Tuma Fair Initiative is an initiative that a few of us came up with. These are 4 community leaders from different parts of China, 2 from Guangzhou. We also thought to give it validity to talk to our colleagues in Kenya or our friends in Kenya. So we have someone who is helping us with the technical department, and we have two people who are helping us because they are accountants. So we talked to M. Changa, and M. Changa said we can partner in this so that if we come up with a platform, that platform would now raise money directly through M. Changa, and that would be directed to the account that would be assisting people finally, once we agree who needs to be facilitated. And, do they need to be facilitated for the air travel, or do they need to be facilitated for quarantine? Because we have government facilities that are doing the quarantine, and KQ will be doing the flight. So far we have been able to raise about 33,000 Kenya shillings. Not much. However, we've been able to engage KQ directly, and they are willing to, upon request, to consider giving waiver to 5 people who will be traveling on that flight. Yes.
How many, to the best of your knowledge, are you in touch with those that have registered with the embassy as well, that they're willing to come back home? As a Tuma Fair initiative, the ambassador has just told us 183 have applied. Are you also in touch with the 183?
Okay. Well, I'm part of a team of 23, including the deputy ambassador, that are working to, towards mapping out, who needs to travel, not just from Guangzhou, because we have people from different parts of China who are affected by this lockdown. And some of those people, indeed, they have expired visa status in China, and I agree with the number of 125 who need to come. Some of them are as far as Shenyang, which is almost 2 hours by train to Guangzhou. And so people will be traveling from different parts of China to Guangzhou because KQ says that the flight will be coming to Guangzhou. Yes.
So, I mean, if you're looking across the board and what you hope, people, you know that people want to come home with this. How many people are you hoping to bring home with this? And are you doing this and saying it's a standalone, or are you hoping to get more support from a government in China or the government here back home?
Okay. What we hope to do is to partner with anyone. Having been part of the Chinese community, which I'm still part of, what we have done is we have 3 approaches to assisting people. The first approach is an individual request for assistance, where we rally around them. First, we ask the people within their community to form, let's say, a WeChat page, and then we ask the admins to consider that issue. If that issue is valid, then we come around and assist. So we have been able to assist people who have been in prison before. We have been able to bring bodies of people who have died in China out of coordinating with the team of the place where the bereavement has taken place, and also the admins of the different platforms, so that if an issue is agreed, then it is sent out into all the platforms. We also have a welfare. The welfare is everyone contributes towards maybe a bereavement, and in the event that they are also affected, then everyone assists, so that maybe within 3-4 days that issue is addressed. Now, this is an individual. Right now we have 183 cases. Out of all those cases, about 60 have been able to pay for their air tickets. There are others who have been able to raise a substantial amount of money, but not enough to cover the 82,999, which is equivalent to 750 USD. So those are the people we are looking at, and we are talking to them on an individual basis. You asked whether I'm in touch with them.
Yeah.
We have a WhatsApp group where we are constantly comparing notes. Any information from Beijing, we are relaying to them. We have a member from the embassy called Edwin Limo, who is part of that team. So because of that, we are trying our best to ensure that no one is left behind. Another thing that we are doing is we are now vetting the most vulnerable cases, so that we can now forward a small list to KQ for their consideration. So those are so far what we have been able to do.
And what is your criteria, Joe, for vetting these most vulnerable?
We have agreed on a matrix, and that matrix, what we have done is we have brought together, highly skilled scholars who are part of the Chinese Kenya fraternity.
What is the matrix, please?
Well, I would have to read it to you.
Read it.
Okay, hold on. I'll happily read it to you. Hold on, just a moment. Okay, so this is what we have done. I'll read it as addressed.
Okay.
Members, my opinion, task timeline, preferably 24 hours. A date case collection, 3 hours starting from 2 p.m. So we have agreed that one of us develops that matrix between 3 and 4 p.m. China time. By 8 p.m. China time, the evaluation of the cases as per the case matrix will be agreed upon by every individual, and then they will bring the same to the platform. All members will individually run the presented cases through the matrix and submit to the platform by 8 p.m. An analysis of scores to get top 7 cases by 9 p.m. today, and then a decision of interview team, which will interview a maximum 3 people, with embassy employee being part of the interview team. The top 3 cases will be exempted from, the general interview. So we'll have 3 that we will consider based on the cases that we have, and then 2 of them will subject them into, to the interview, where the team of 10 will ask them critical questions and assess whether or not they need the assistance. So by 11 a.m. tomorrow, we will be able to send a final presentation with a team of 5. With a group of 5 for the flight waiver. So by 11:15 a.m. tomorrow, we will be able to complete this task and send 5 names to KQ.
So, Joe, what you're saying is that this matrix is actually work in progress right now.
It is work in progress.
And when do you hope to conduct these interviews, and how will you conduct the interviews?
So we have many cases that have been, cited that need assistance. I can be specific because we have a mother who has a sickly child from the time that the child was born, the child has been sickly. Even yesterday, the child was taken to the hospital. This is a person who has depleted all her resources. So that could be considered, and I'm not saying it will be, that is subject to the team. We have another person, and I mean, as opposed to what the ambassador said, there's a lady who stayed in the street in Beijing for 3 days, and then akachangiwa, and the ambassador is aware. So now she's hosted by 2 Tanzanians, and that person could also be considered, because that person went in November to China. They were swindled their money. The person who brought them in backed out from her, and now she has been on her own. She has never earned a dime ever since she arrived into China. There are different cases. I could go on case-to-case basis, but those are people that probably need to be considered in this matrix. Yes.
You're saying so far you've raised 33,000 shillings.
Yes.
And as it stands now, the date of the flight is the 8th.
The 8th, yes.
So we basically have 7 days.
Yes.
What happens if you're not able to raise any more money?
Well, if we are not able to raise any more money, hopefully the people who have booked the flight will be able to travel. We are working with hope, and we do hope that maybe someone, right now what we would want is for people to adopt specific cases, so that, based on the cases that we are receiving for those people who need assistance, maybe we can highlight those that we feel, maybe need to be considered by others, so that others can consider whether or not they would support such a person. But there are a few things I would want to say, probably if I have a minute or two.
Go ahead.
Number one, it is not possible. I had our dear ambassador, who I really respect, saying that most of the Kenyans in China do manual jobs, those who have been in hiding. That is impossible, because in China, you cannot do manual work as a foreigner. You cannot. If you even tried, your employer and the person who is employed with will both be fined and arrested.
So what have they been doing?
That is impossible. Well, when Kenyans go to China, they go there for greener pastures, just like any other place. So usually they go on a tourist visa or on a business visa. There are also those who go on a short-term student visa. So once they arrive there, if you're on a business visa, you need to do business. If you're on a tourist visa, you travel and then you leave. Some of those people on tourist visa and on business visa who have gone there without knowing, the status that the agent who sent them there put them on, those are the people who find themselves in such a problem. Another problem is also those people who go hoping that they will be able to earn a living and support themselves, academically. I agree with the ambassador when she said that there is the highest number of Kenyans in China are students. Yes, we have government-sponsored students who are very comfortable because they receive 45,000 Kenya shillings every month from the Chinese government. So their living allowance is also taken care of. They don't pay for rent.
Okay.
But we have self-sponsored students, and those are the ones who have to really work hard to be able to pay their tuition. In the event that they're not able to pay their tuition, their visa is revoked immediately. So once that is done, they become, illegal.
Yeah.
And so they fall into this category of the 125 that she has, highlighted, which is accurate. So
what do they do to earn a living?
What they do to earn a living is they work part-time. So they study and they work part-time. Some of the things that Kenyans do in China, as well as other foreigners, is number one, they can work, as a DJ, because being a DJ is a special skill. Sometimes they can work as hairdressers. Being a hairdresser is a special skill. Sometimes they can work as cooks, but in order for you to work as a cook, you need to have a registration certificate from the Chinese. And you can only work in high-end restaurants like the Hiltons of China. So there are those who are able to get into that category. Now, about teaching, where some of the Kenyans, also fall, we have, I'm a teacher myself. I have a bachelor's and a master's in education. My PhD is in management science. So as a teacher, there are two kinds of teachers, language teacher and content teacher. So for language teacher, as an African, it's very hard for you to teach English in China. So what these people do, those people who have a teaching certificate in Kenya, let's say from KU or Nairobi University, once they go there, they find that in order for you to teach English, you need to either be native from the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, or South Africa. So if you're not from those countries, you will not be legally employed. You will be given sort of part-time contract, but that part-time contract is as valid as when they do not have a white person. The moment they have someone who fits that criteria, your contract is revoked.
Joe, I think because you're coming to the end of the show and we are running out of time, I'd like us to come back into this initiative that you're running, the Tuma Fair initiative.
Right. Yes.
If somebody would like to contribute to this Tuma Fair initiative, how do they do that? And let's talk about accountability, because accountability with people's money is crucial. How do they know where their money has gone?
Okay. So let me start with accountability. The money is held by M-Changa, and M-Changa will send the money directly to the KQ account that, for the persons that will be agreed upon to be assisted. If we do raise more than the airfare, and some people need to be assisted for quarantine, then the money will be sent to a quarantine facility, government quarantine facility.
Okay.
So that is as much as accountability goes.
Is there a list that you're providing on this platform that I know that these are the people that we are supposed to help, so that when the money is sent either to KQ or to the quarantine facility, we know it's for the benefit of the person that you had already indicated?
A specific person.
Yep.
So the vetting is being done now would be the first point of consideration, because KQ asked that they say they can consider 5 people. So if we vet more than 5 people, then those are the people who will get first consideration.
But
that is
the assistance that you're asking from the public is not the KQ assistance. So the 5 people, set that aside. What you're asking for is, how will I know that my money has gone to benefit so and so, and not somebody else who ended up, getting a flight ticket?
Well, the people who have bought their flight tickets so far are excluded from any form of support.
Okay.
The people who have not yet bought their flight ticket and will not be able to buy their flight ticket, probably because they do not have enough money, and they have asked for help. Those are the people who will be considered.
Okay. So quickly, how do we contribute? What's the platform? How do we get onto the platform?
So the platform is called the Tuma Fair Initiative. The pay bill number is 891300.
Say that again.
The pay bill is 891300. And the account number is 39849.
39849.
Yes.
Joe Thiga, thank you very much for speaking to us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
all the best.
Joe.
Yeah. Well, my desire is to see as many people pitch in and assist, whether or not you know these people or not. That is what I have done, because I do not know some of these people personally. When I was asked to step up, I did step up. We had one of the consulate members on board.
Thank you,
when
Joe.
we sent it out, we were, asked to
Thank you,
exclude
Joe.
their names.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Seti Muga, we're coming to the end of the show. Please give us today's proverb.
Yes, one who bathes willingly with cold water doesn't feel the cold. A fibber.
Fipa. Pa.
The FIPA from Tanzania, they number not more than 200,000. Lovely stuff. The truth of the matter is, if you have a resource, you already have water. Focus on what it can do for you. This value added, like warm, hot, unless it's used for cooking, it's sufficient for the task. If it's cold, it will wash you clean.
It will wash you clean.
Yes.
Well, going into the weekend, your final words for the weekend?
Weekend.
Your wish for the weekend?
You know, this Friday hit me. I didn't even know it was Labor Day. Yes.
It's a long weekend for many.
Yeah, some people aren't going back to work on Monday. I don't know. Why does Labor Day extend to Monday?
No, the
No,
people
no,
are not
see,
going
see.
to work today.
Today is Friday. Today is Labor Day. It's today that they're not going to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's been a long week.
Clearly. No.
Yes.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. We'll see you on Monday.
See you on Monday, folks. Thank you very much for tuning in. The Situation Room returns Monday, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. Well, hook up with Monica. She takes you home on Spice Drive from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock. Between now and then, uninterrupted music. The likes of Michael Jackson and Akon, the likes of Expose, the likes of Sydney Youngblood. Hey, Manny.
Hey.
Money Love. Good morning. It's 10 o'clock.